Good evening. This is the Dania Beach City Commission regular meeting. It's Tuesday, January 22, 2019 at 7 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Mayor Llewellyn,
Here.
Vice Mayor Udman,
Here.
Commissioner Brandemart,
Here.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Commissioner James,
Here.
Assistant City Manager Donnelly,
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
Here.
Thank you.
Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Can you please join me for a moment of silence, please? Okay, our next item is presentations and special event approvals. First item is special event request from the Community Redevelopment Agency for the Dania Beach 2019 Arts and Seafood Celebration to be held on March 30th and 31st, 2019 at Frost Park from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday and from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. The applicant is requesting BSO Police and Fire Services and road closure for Fronton Boulevard from Northeast 2nd Street to Northeast 1st Street. Are there any issues?
Mayor, just a clarification, the request for the BSO, the fire services we get directly from the fire department through our contract. We get 3 events per our agreement with them. This is one of the events that they'll be covering. And I believe the police is being handled under their special detail as well, so that's all been handled. So everything else is in order.
Motion to approve? Anybody?
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Next item is a special events request from Dania Beach Lions Club for their Moonlight Classic Car Show to be held at Frost Park on February 23rd, 2019 from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. The applicant is requesting special event fee waiver of $150, porta toilets for Frost Park, and BSO police escort and security details for the event. Any comments?
No issues, Mayor.
Move the item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next item is special event request by the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, Tri-Rail, to have their annual Rail Fun Day to be held at 500 Gulfstream Way on January 26, 2019 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Are there any issues with that?
No issues, Mayor.
Move the item.
Good.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We have one proclamation this evening. Is he here?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
He's over there. We call him Chico. Yeah.
Where is Deputy Batista?
Chico.
Okay, come on down. Come on down. Stand by the podium there, if you will. I'm just going to read this off to you. We have a proclamation, whereas Louis Batista, in 1979, at the age 24 years, was hired by the City of Dania Beach Police Department, and whereas he worked various assignments as an officer on road patrol and a detective in the Criminal Investigation Unit and Narcotics Unit, and whereas Louis Batista garnered several awards for Officer of the Month, multiple letters of commendations, and 5 times Officer of the Year for his outstanding police work and professionalism while patrolling the streets of Dania Beach. And whereas on September 30, 1988, the Dania Beach Police Department merged with the Broward Sheriff's Office, where he continued his career and currently serves the citizens of Dania Beach in the capacity of Deputy Sheriff. And whereas Louis Batista continued to exhibit the same commitment to outstanding service to the citizens of Dania Beach as a deputy with the Broward Sheriff's Office, Dania Beach District. And whereas Detective Batista was detached to the DEA to investigate narcotics trafficking cases linked to South Florida. And whereas Detective Bautista also assisted agents in the FBI Miami-Dade Field Office investigating serious violent offenders in the South Florida area. And whereas he remained for the next 31 years of his law enforcement career with the BSO Dania Beach District. And whereas with the exception of his time detached with the DEA and FBI, Deputy Louis Batista has spent his entire career serving the City of Dania Beach and its residents. And whereas on January 11, 2019, Deputy Louis Batista retired from the Broward Sheriff's Office, Dania Beach District, after providing more than 39 years of continued and honorable service. Now, therefore, the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida recognizes Deputy Louis Batista on the occasion of his retirement from the Broward Sheriff's Office after giving over 39 years to his career, coworkers, and the Dania Beach community. Stand here, we'll take some pictures with you. Really, congratulations. And I don't know if you'd like to say anything, or
I have
Detective.
to say, it's been an honor and a privilege to have worked for the city of Dania for the past 39 years, 2 months, 11 days, 7.5 hours. But you know it's time to leave, and one of my boys from the neighborhood tells me, Chico, I've known you a long, long time. I said, yes, sir. He said, I remember you from Dania PD. He said, when you were Dania PD, you looked like Eric Estrada. Now, you look like George Lopez. So you know it's time to go.
Okay, I guess I'll speak. Mayor?
Yes, oh, Commissioner James.
It's okay. Hi, I know him as Chico, so it's
Yeah.
a little different for me. He's been serving since before I was born. I was born and raised here, and so it's just been an honor to see the evolution of Dania Beach and to see the loyalty and you know, the withstanding of police officers who have served the community and the direct community that I grew up in. Yep, you looked a little different back then, but you're aging well. I'm glad Dania hasn't turned all your hair gray. But I wish you well, lots of travels, and I really, really, really thank you for your service here in the city of Dania Beach. I'm sure you can see how much we've grown as a city, and we are better because of people like you, so thank you.
Thank you. Up next is citizen comments. First person up is Craig Valentine. Please state your name, and you'll be limited, your name and address, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes.
Craig Valentine, Gangrels Wrestling Asylum, 1982 Tiger Tail Boulevard, 321 East Sheridan Street. So I didn't feel right just saying it from the audience 2 weeks ago, but I just want to thank the commission for the donation to the school 2 weeks ago. So I let the students know they're very pleased, as well as my business partner Gangrel himself. I just want to thank everybody for letting us take part in the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade on Monday. It was actually fun. So the kids liked it. They actually got to see Gangrel, who they used to see on TV, even kids probably about that tall. I can't believe they remember him. But everybody knows we have the big show coming up in the city of Dania. It's our first TV taping February 23rd at Dania Casino. I know Eric's here somewhere. I got something for you, Eric. It's not shorts. I got 30 tickets for the kids who can't afford to go to the TV taping. So just need to fill out where it says approved. And I also need to know which commissioners, mayor, vice mayor, city officials that are going to be representing the city for our television taping, so I can make sure that they're seated properly. So I know everybody wants to be on television. So just want to thank everybody, and we got a long year ahead of us, and hopefully we could keep doing more for the city.
Thank you, Craig. Next up is Diane Javorka. Oh, that was her. Okay. She fell here? Yeah, she fell outside. Millie Cray. Again, please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes. Yeah, you can come on up.
My name is Millie Cray. I live at 212 Southeast 8th Street for 18 years. Recently, we've had Airbnbs come in. We have a small street between 2nd Avenue and 3rd Avenue, and there are 3 on that street. And what I want to address, because we kind of had an order, we're going to address different things, but my main topic is safety. And, you know, when you come home, your home should be your safe place. That's what you live for. And right now, with these Airbnbs, it doesn't feel safe. In fact, it's been dangerous this weekend, especially with one of the Airbnbs having ATVs and motorcycles. And it's a safety problem also for our children in the area, because not only speeding cars and motorcycles, but Airbnbs do not do a background check. Their guests can come in, and you don't know who they are, and they're there for 5 days. They take over the neighborhood. For one instance, I couldn't get in. It was so many cars. This weekend, though, has been the worst. They could be sexual offenders. They could have guns. They could be terrorists. They can do whatever they want there because they come in for 5 days and they leave. They have no consequences, no records, and no regard for our safety, our children, or our little street. So it's frightening. And it's frightening for young mothers. I know that one living next door moved because so many people were in the house 215. There were so many people there throwing beer cans over in her yard, cigarettes in her yard, and she had a newborn baby. They moved. It's frightening for people who have to come in late at night when you don't know who's in the house next door to you. It's, you know, we want a neighborhood. We don't want a hotel next door, especially an unregulated hotel that can, they are doing whatever they want, basically. And so besides the concern for our children, we want to make the whole neighborhood more whole. Somebody else is going to talk about that, the dynamics of the neighborhood. I think my time. And that's about it. We're not certain what we should do. Coming tonight is our first step because we're learning. But I have learned by being here earlier that only one of those 3 functionings in Airbnb has even applied for a license. So I spoke to someone and gave them the list, and I will be emailing more. So what do we do? Who's going to protect us, and who's going to look out for us? Thank you for listening.
Simone Chait. You need your name and address, please. We need your name and address is what we need.
My name is Simone Chait. I live at 228 Southeast 8th Street. And I've been about 2.5 years. I'm a newcomer to Florida. I'm from California. And Airbnb is not when I moved into the neighborhood. I sat days and days waiting, watching the neighborhood to see what kind of community it was. And I said, this is a perfect place. Best kept secret. Nobody knows about Dania Beach. It was perfect. So here are my questions to you all. I understand permits are given and renewed annually as long as they are in compliance. When short-term renters are in the properties and they are not in compliance, too many people, too many cars, or the people that are there throwing trash to our neighbors on both sides in the front lawn. Who regulates that property to help our neighborhood, our homeowners? Who do homeowners, us, who own in the neighborhood, what do we do? We're not paid to watch these Airbnb. What do we do? You've got owners, you have city hall ordinance, and you have police because of noise. It's not my job. I've worked enough. This is not my job. I'm a homeowner in the neighborhood. There's no checks and balances on these people. Once they give you the money and the permit, again, once a year, boom. Where are the checks and balances for us as homeowners? We have no rights, it seems like, even though it's in your ordinance. Seems short-term rental owners have more power than us homeowners do. We just want to know what our rights are and what can we do and what can you all do for the city, because now it's becoming a problem. From what I understand, there's maybe 150 of these babies in our... Holy smokers. That's the city. You've already taken the city. Okay. All right.
About Airbnb, there's also at least 150
Right. I'm just talking
other
Airbnb.
rental sites, and each site or each rental might appear on 7 to 14 different rental sites.
Understandable. Understandable. Okay. How many violations can they get before their permit is revoked? Are there fines that really impact the owners, or is it just a joke? If you're making that kind of money, do they really care? And can we regulate how many are on our block? I know you're shaking your heads, but hold your pants on. You're shaking your heads, but we are here for laws. Can we make an ordinance to regulate it and to do so? Paper all week. You have a governor who has just said this. You all seen this about DeSantis. He wants to fight against Airbnb. It's been the Sun. It's been in the Miami Herald. Please, take us seriously. At least give us information how we can do something, because this is such an annoyance to us, and it's not fair. And BSO was on top with the helicopters the other day following the ATVs. Disappointing, stood out there and watched. Not one police officer followed up to get the ATVs. There were 6 of them in the yard. The boys threw them in the backyard and ran.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want the list?
I'm not going to answer all her questions to drive you crazy, Mayor, but I am just going to ask you to email, send us an email, and we'll kind of catch you up where we are. It's a complicated issue that involves state preemption. It's absolutely something that we're aware of, but I want to answer all your questions. It's just now I can't in this forum, but I would love to. So please send us an email.
You can send it to all of us.
To the whole
You can send
commission,
the
to all
entire
of
commission.
us. and we'll get that straightened out for you in terms of the information.
And that way you'll have all of our names in your email address book, and you'll be able to send us things in the future. Yeah.
And then you can email us all the time.
Okay. Okay. Next person is Joe Petrozelli.
Good evening. My name's Joe Petrozelli. I'm a resident at 216 Southeast State Street. I've been here for 30 years. I've been an apartment owner. I know what it takes to rent to people. When people ask me where I'm going to live in the future, I say I found a home. I had no place in the future to even think about. We're close to the beach. We're close to I-95, great shopping. I have 3 neighbors that are still 30-year residents. You know, I've seen people come and go, and for the most part, we've had a great neighborhood. But this has actually gotten out of hand. I took pictures over the last couple of days. 6 cars on the street, ATVs going up and down the street. And, you know, as a landlord, I know it's going to be tough. They're fighting the city of Miami Beach. They've got a lot of money. But we do need some help, you know. And if not, my wife has actually said, we went out to watch the blood moon the other night. It was a goddamn joke across the street. 12 o'clock at night. She has actually said to me she wants to consider moving. And this is the place we were going to stay for the rest of our lives after 30 years. Thanks.
Thank you. It's not working. I know. I'm having an issue here. Janice Hargaden?
Hi, so my name is Janice Hargaden. I live on 236 Southeast 8th Street. I've lived there for 14 years. I moved to this area because I thought it would be a nice area to raise my family. My mother-in-law lived here. My aunt lives here. In the last 1 to 2 years, I've seen every house that's sold on my block, and the family that she talked about moving, I expect that one to be a short-term rental as well. And this is changing the character of our neighborhood. People pick short-term rental homes to celebrate and have a good time. This leads to strangers always on my street, increased traffic, an exposure for my children that I am not comfortable with. You just heard Joe say he's considering moving. I am also considering moving. And I won't be moving to Dania, okay, because I don't think you guys have addressed this issue. I think because we're a beach community that lives close, I think that it's gotten out of hand. And this is what's happening to all of the neighborhoods, I would imagine. People are moving out and in are these short-term rentals. They have no investment in our town. Before the short-term rental, I knew 90% of my neighbors. My neighbor just fell outside. 6 of us were there. We all knew her. We know her history. We know what's going on with her. We take care of each other. We take care of each other after the hurricanes. We look out for each other. I went to Orlando. My neighbors were sending me pictures after the last hurricane, what was going on. That's what a neighborhood does with your neighbors that you know. With these short-term rentals, I don't know who that, my neighbor called me the other day. He fell in his house. I have a key to his house. I went, I helped him so EMS could get in. Okay, that's all leaving. That's gone. That's something we don't have anymore. Not mentioning the safety and everything else. Please, eliminate or rezone whatever we need to do. I know this is an issue for lots of communities, and I know there's legal statutes, but we as a community need to start addressing this. We need to start addressing it aggressively because they're aggressively moving into our neighborhood. And, like she said, we're not the best kept secret anymore. We're just becoming a big hotel. Thank you.
Commissioner James?
I just want to quickly address all of the people that are here, the residents that are here to speak on Airbnb, and that may come after you.
There are no more.
This is a.
She's the last one.
Oh, she's the last one. Okay,
Yeah.
great. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Please send her my well wishes, but I want you all to know that's been a discussion. I haven't seen your faces here before. However, this has been a discussion that this commission has been having for at least a year. That's not, if you all are talking about moving, guess what? It's a nationwide issue, and it's spreading like wildfire. So I just want to caution you, wherever you go, your neighbor might be an Airbnb. And this is something that all of the cities we're looking into aggressively. And we have been trying to see what we're legally allowed to do. We've been meeting with, we've been discussing this with community development, with BSO, and we're actually going to have a workshop so that the residents can come and put in their input on these things as well. But you have to understand, we have to do what's within the law. And of course, we want to just go and make all of these regulations ourselves. But our hands are tied at a certain time. So I don't want you all to think that we are not addressing this issue, because all of us live in this city as well, and I know a lot of us are living next to Airbnbs ourselves. So this is something that we are very serious about, and we're shaking our head to know that we can't do anything about it because we're just as equally frustrated as you are that are sitting out there. And so I just want you to know that this isn't the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or gazillionth email or time we've heard about this, but we are concerned and we are working on all of our behalves for the better quality of life for all of our kids and all of our communities.
Not at this time.
Mark-
Not at this time. Mark can
Yeah.
probably do that for you. Mark
She'll-
LaFerrier, who's sitting 2 rows behind you. You
That's-
might want to speak with him.
That's why I said email us, and we'll catch you up on everything on what we've done and what we're trying to do, and we'll get you in touch with everybody.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Mark LaFerrier, Community Development. I spoke with some of the citizens outside, and I gave my number. And we'll be happy to sit down with them and go into detail about sort of what the law allows and what the law doesn't allow and what the city can do and what we have been doing. So we'll be happy to do that, and if there's a workshop, we'll be able to provide a full presentation. But just in summary, we cannot preempt Airbnbs and other vacation rentals in the city of Dania Beach, nor can any other city in Fort Lauderdale, or I mean in Florida, sorry, because the state legislature requires that we allow them in any units, our housing units are 1 unit to 4 units. But we do have very strict regulations in the city, and we do follow up on any complaints that we do have. We do have a complaint, and we do have an application on this street. So we're aware of 2 of them that we'll have action on. I think there's a couple more that we need to look into. And we're always looking at things that might change, but our enforcement actions, we just got a new staff member approved by the City Commission in this year's budget so that we can add that to code enforcement, which will help us. It's a very labor-intensive effort by staff in order to enforce this regulation, because our inspectors go out and look at the property and things like that too. So, I mean, we'll be happy to help out, obviously, with any complaints that we have. We're trying to be proactive with it. We also have a service that searches Airbnb and other vacation rental sites and gives us a report on how many are available. What we do is we act proactively and pick 5 of those up, and every month we prosecute 5 of those from that list, as well as all of the complaints that we get. So this is this street we've identified as having some issues, but now I'm hearing there's some more that we weren't aware of, and we'll follow up on it.
And the residents can call, right? They can call code compliance?
Yeah.
If they have a complaint about a specific address?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris, did you have something?
Is it possible, I mean, because what we did in our neighborhood, which is an HOA, is we prohibited any kind of Airbnbs through our HOA documentation. And, since 8th Street is an issue, would you consider maybe, if it's possible and legal, to form a Southeast 8th Street Homeowners Association, and then it's prohibited? I mean, Tom? Is that possible?
I'm not sure single-family residences qualify to form an HOA under the state
Okay.
law.
'Cause-
But it doesn't mean they can't. Again, I think with these people communicating with Mark and his staff,
Yeah.
this is where we can get some enforcement and compliance.
Yeah.
Because if they're as bad as they say, and I have no reason to doubt them, we should be able to bring to the magistrate and fine the owner every time this happens. So that's something we can do here, and we need to do it for them.
Commission, oh, go ahead.
No, and also, I have 31 homes on my street, and we put it in our HOA documents. No short-term rentals, period. No rentals of less than 6 months. So some of our, what'd you say? Uh-huh. Well, no, it did in our case, because we filed a cease and desist order against them and had BSO come and carry them away.
Just
So,
help- if anyone has
I mean,
anything
this
else,
is a-
if anything, if you wait, stop.
Yeah.
If you have something else to add, you need to come up to the podium. You need to give your name again,
But-
so that we know who you are.
I mean, I know we were aware of some issues, but not this many. I mean, Chicky and I were at the League of Cities last summer in August, and it was a big issue in Tampa, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach. So it is becoming, but it's a clear-cut case of the law not keeping up with technology, and we have to rewrite the law to keep up with the technology. And I talked to Mark about geocoding and geofencing and how it's a software issue that you can code to prohibit. But I'm thinking, like, with our legal staff, that we can maybe look at what's involved in putting together an HOA. Chicky lives in an HOA at Meadowbrook. Do they allow them at Meadowbrook?
I want my chance to talk.
Okay, I'm done. All right.
Go ahead, Commissioner
I'm
Brandon
done.
Marty.
Because the hatred I have for them could fill this room 10 times. My question to you is this, Mark. How many permits have you issued for Airbnbs?
I think we've got about 15.
You have issued 15 permits for Airbnbs. They willingly came here, since they get $200 a night, because I know all of it. Well, 200 where I'm at. $200 a night, and you knew about it. What did you do to follow up to see that they were in compliance with what Tallahassee has put up as their rules and regulations?
Well, what
Like,
we-
for instance, a manager on the property at all times? Is there?
That's not one of the requirements by state law or one of the requirements by the city. They're required to have a manager who's on call,
Would you like to see that?
a manager on site.
At all times, so that when she's got a complaint, she could call?
That'd make our job easier.
No kidding, right. Would you like to see that the person willingly comes to the city and says, I want a permit for an Airbnb?
We've only had one person do that.
No kidding. That's the whole point, people. They don't come and tell you. They don't come and tell you that they're opening a Airbnb. Why should they? I went to those classes. I stayed in those classes. I came back and gave a full report. Yeah, you got a pedophile in there. Oh, you sure do. Could even have maybe a murderer in there. You don't know a damn thing. Why? Because they're not screened. But then look at Meadowbrook, where I live. You would think, well, that's great, right? They're screened. Everything is above board. My friend over here presented me with something that shook me. He showed me pictures of an inside. I thought he was in my own condo. He took all the pictures of my kitchen, my bathrooms, my bedroom, everything, cupboards, everything, and a little sign, just bring a toothbrush, because that's what they want. It's just your toothbrush. You could go right in there. I took these pictures to the board, and I hope they're listening out there in Meadowbrook, and I said, here, in C building on the 4th floor in 404, we'll say, right, is an Airbnb. Here it's advertised, just bring your toothbrush. What are you going to do about it? Well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute, Commissioner. We're not going to do nothing about it. I said, what do you mean? They're coming in all hours of the night. It could be a prostitute. She could still rent it for one night. Think about it. She really can, right? That pedophile that came from another state, right? Said, no, the homeowners don't want us to use their maintenance fees to evict them. And so guess what? In C building in Meadowbrook, they still have the Airbnb. Now, Tallahassee regulates these. We don't, but we have guidelines that we can follow. But let me tell you something, you need a big force of people to keep after those guidelines because they're crooks. They're crooks. They're all rotten crooks. And corporations are buying 2 and 3 condos in order to rent them out as Airbnbs. And everyone's document says the same. You're not allowed to rent less than a year. But they're not going to enforce it because they don't want to pay the money. What you need here is an advertisement in the Dania Press. I don't care where it is. Bring in the man I told you to bring in 1 year ago and let this man explain it to all these residents about an Airbnb and how it should be done and what is being done wrong within our own city. And that's what I say for the last time. Last time I'm saying it. The man that presented it to the, and he's big in our League of Cities, Bill Israeli. His name is Binzer. And he said, I'll talk to any group. It's free. I will explain to them everything about this. They're the largest Airbnb host company. So when they get in there, we can beat the hell out of them. Because they are the world's largest Airbnb host company. I say, start texting your city commission. I've asked for it, and obviously I didn't get anywhere. Tell them you want a guy from Airbnb to come in here and explain it to you since you can't fight it, right? Don't you want addresses? Honey, let me tell you something about addresses. You're wasting your time. Can I tell you why? All right, I'm going to anyway. In Meadowbrook, there was this man from a cell phone company.
Commissioner Brandon Marty, just to remind you.
I got to tell them this, though.
I know you
wanna
do,
hear
but
this, don't you?
we have a list of people that still need to go tonight. So.
All right, well, anyway, this guy from the cell phone company, I came in with 1,000 signatures, just like you, a homeowner, and they threw it out against the cell phone tower on B building at Meadowbrook. Tower's up, but now I'm sitting in this chair.
You'd have to come up here, please. Please state your name again.
Simone Che, just FYI, the city of Los Angeles, Airbnb. You cannot buy a house, an apartment. You must rent in their primary.
So in other words, if you have your house, you can rent your room out, but you can't rent your house out. If a city like Los Angeles can do it, anybody can do it.
Okay. All right. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to confirm, is Mr. Wagenstyle still here? Can't hear me? Still can't hear me? Okay. Is Mr. Wagenstyle still here? And, okay, I didn't.
Yeah.
No. Okay. That's, no, he's, yeah, I know he's gone. Okay. Next up is Bobby H. Grace.
Here we go again.
Please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes.
Bobby H. Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue, Dania Beach, Florida. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Commission, the City of Dania Beach, the residents of Dania Beach, surrounding communities, Hollywood, Hallandale, Fort Lauderdale, for being a part of the MLK Renaissance parade, dinner, Progress in the Park this weekend. What an awesome affair. And it was really nice to see everybody out. So I really thank everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Secondly, I want you to keep Lee family in prayer. She's having a difficult time. Two of family members are in the hospital, and we need to pray for them. It's Lee. Lee and your seniors, Lee.
Oh.
Okay. So we need to pray for her and pray for her family. It's trying times. Secondly, selling Girl Scout cookies for Monica. Okay, so I'm still in the loop for the city. The last thing I want to say is that I'm not here to be argumentative or to tell you how to do your job, but I want you to remember when you do something and it's in black and white, you have to honor it. Now, you inherit what we put in place when I was in office. And it took me a little while, and I had to go back and get the minutes and so forth, because I don't like to say anything without having a backup of what I'm talking about. So this is the way that it went. Under my comments, I stated that the programs for the seniors and gracefully aging will not have funding to continue until the budget that was going to be read on September 18th, first reading. And I asked the commission at that time, will you please grant us an additional $5,000 for each one of these programs so that we can continue to service our senior programs? It states, Commissioner Grace mentioned that both programs needed $5,000, the seniors and gracefully aging. There was a motion made by myself, and it was seconded by Commissioner Brandon Marty. It passed 5-0. First reading of the budget was on September 18th. Then we finalized the budget at the end of September, where we had line items for both of these organizations along with the MLK. So we went back and actually asked for additional money so that we wouldn't have this problem in the future for both of the programs. And it was in the budget and it passed. There is no stipulations whatsoever to say that if we didn't spend that $5,000 between now and September 18th, that money will be refunded back to the city. I'm asking you to make sure that you put that back in our current budget. We have a lot of activities that we're planning for this year. I know Chicky has. I looked at her program. Gracefully Aging has a senior program that we're doing a senior prom. We're going to be going on some activities. It's the right thing to do. We did not ask you for it for a temporary fix. It was part of what we voted on, 5-0. I'm asking you right now to please put it back in there and make it part of our budget, and make sure that the seniors program and Gracefully Aging has an update of how much monies we have in each of these programs.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
thank you
Grace.
for your time.
Thank you. Just a question, Colin. What was the $5,000 put in?
Sorry. I don't mean to be argumentative either, but that discussion that Bobby's reading from, that happened at the regular commission meeting. And the 5,000, the discussion was that they were running short of money until the new budget was put. So the commission put $5,000 in each of those accounts. But what happens on a regular budget cycle, when the operating budget ends on September 30th, the money that's not spent in those accounts are closed out and the new budget year starts. Now, the City Commission in this year, for the upcoming year, they did increase funding to both groups up to $25,000 per year, and that's the new amount that we're at. And I went back and looked at the discussion, the video discussion, and it seemed clear to me that this was, I wouldn't call it temporary funding, but it was money for last year's budget, and the money was used and then retired as our regular, just as our regular function goes. I don't know whether you were aware what would happen with that money, but it was for the past budget year, and it has since been relapsed. Now, if the commission wants to reallocate the remainder of that money or an additional $5,000, you would have to do that out of your commission contingency, which currently has $35,000 in it.
Commissioner James?
Yes. Hi, Commissioner Grace. No, I definitely remember being a part of that conversation, and I don't know how all of the policies work. Maybe they can be clarified, but for programs such as these, I don't want to get into a thing that, number one, those programs really don't operate as often during the summertime. However, it fluctuates. So one year they may need additional money, one year they may not. These type of programs, I would like to, first of all, I would like to see us replace whatever we took that they did not spend. Secondly, I would like to make it a policy that we aren't taking back whatever they don't spend, because then you're going to just have programs spending money just to spend money, even if they don't really need to spend that money. And that's what I don't want to end up happening. So if they have $2,500 left over, I don't want them to create something or have a big party just to spend the money. I want it to be rolled over, because next year they may have a little more cushion in things they need to do. Those programs are growing every year. I've watched those programs flourish and grow. They will be expanding to different parts. So I don't want to get into counting nickels and dimes on these programs that are improving the quality of life for a lot of our seniors, and something that it wasn't clarified at that date that, oh, come September, we're going to take the funding back. So that's my discussion on it. If we said that we were going to give it to them, it's theirs to keep, and I'm not here to take it back from them.
Commissioner Brandon Marty?
Yeah. I just wanted to be clear by the residents here. When they say they give us the money, we never see it. No, I want you to know that. We don't touch a penny of that money. That money is all kept here in the city, and finance sees it. But we never see a nickel of it, not a nickel of it. I just want you to know it. So when they're taken back, it's like they never gave to begin with. It's still there. But that money was given and taken back so that the next year that you're doing senior programs, right, you had to reapply for the money. And it was wrong. And they did take back the money, our own city. Shame on you.
Vice Mayor?
My question just was, can we make a motion to return that five? Thank you, Mayor. So then I'd like to make a motion to return that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No.
Easy enough.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. Okay. Next person is Antonio Arcieri.
Good evening, everyone.
Please
My name
state
is
your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Antonio Arcieri, 2601 Southwest 58th Manor in Dania. I've been a resident since 2001 and a landlord since 2001. And tonight actually is the perfect night to talk about this. This is the form, the HR 7028. I sent an email to all of you, and thanks, Ms. James, for replying to me about my case. And this is the form that you actually need to fill out in the state of Florida if you actually rent one room constantly, just like the situation that we're having in here. It's a state law. The law requires in the state, anywhere you are, that if you actually rent for vacationing, they call it non-transitional, non-transing. Actually, you need a business license for that. And you can actually go and say, do you have a business license for it? They need to provide it. It's as simple as that. It's a state law everywhere. It's not city, it's a state. Now, this is actually what happened to me. I'm a landlord, and I actually have tenants from 2004. They're not tenants, they're pretty much homeowners and family members. And I have 2 duplexes. And this just happened on the 16th. The code enforcement came in, and actually I saw them right in there in front of my property as I'm walking by, and it says if there's any issues. It says, do you live there? It says, yeah, this is my property. Well, the garbage can needs to actually be put behind the fence, which we have been really pushing for people to be bringing the trash can in. The first thing that it comes out that actually, I'm not complaining about him. This is what he's being taught to do. It says, do you have actually a business tax receipt? And I said, I've been here since 2001. I don't know what you're talking about. I pay my taxes. I do everything that no, you need a tax ID. This was new to me. 1501, which actually states, it shall be unlawful for any person to engage in, manage, or allow anyone on the person's property to engage in or manage any business in the city without having a business tax receipt from the city. Before engaging in any business, profession, or occupation, every person should register in the book or file to be kept for the purpose by the city, the name, profession, or occupation, and places of business of the person. I contacted the state and I said, do I need a business? A business from you? I mean, do I need to apply for this? And I told them my situation. I have a duplex, which I rent for long term. That says you do not need that. You're not required because you actually had only 2 units, it's under 4, and you actually have long term. By the city of Dania, they're requiring me to actually have a business permit. They're telling me that I need a business permit when I don't need it from the state of Florida. But then again, to these other properties that they're doing it, it's fine. But I get crucified for actually just paying all my taxes. And I would like someone to clarify this for me. I would like why this is happening. Why code enforcement can actually go to me on my face and just says, you're in violation.
Yes, sir, you're over your 3 minutes. Mark, is that something that you can help with? Mark LaFerrier also, who spoke earlier. He would be the person to speak with about the code compliance issues.
Well,
okay.
What is the answer? Anybody can
Well,
actually give me their input?
You can address it with Mark outside of here. We need to.
In a closed room?
Just he can answer your questions for you.
But anybody has anything to say to me, I would like to be recorded.
That's not what we're here for.
Oh, okay, so nobody can give their insight. Okay, great.
That's not what we're
it
here
will
to
be
do.
behind closed doors then.
Okay.
Thank you.
You can stand in the atrium. It's wide open there. Yeah. Okay, the last remaining items are all with regard to the Dania Beach Grill. I'm going to go ahead and let this now. It's only a few. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. There is one before that. I'm sorry. Jose Armand. Please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes.
Jose Armand, 50 Southeast 3rd Avenue, Dania. I'm going to add a little bit of levity here, but it really is something for you to know about. I was at home and I was watching the CRA meeting, and I heard Mayor Llewellyn say that she could not speak really very loud because of the mic. Yes. And as a prosecutor, she could be adversarial. But since this is an inform and educate forum, I'd like to add a little bit of levity and let you know that last month there was also a problem with your mic, right? I was here, I was at the meeting. So I went home and I wanted to see how your voice sounded, just out of curiosity. To my surprise, when you said Dania Beach, the subtitles translated nude beach. So, okay.
Maybe that's really what I said.
So today, in the CRA meeting, there was another discussion, and it was Vice Mayor Odman, I think, and it also translated under nude beach. There was another odd translation, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with that because it's not going to come that much. But it's called Grangels. You were talking about the seafood festival. It came out as Dangle's proposal in nude beach. So maybe that subtitles, at least the Dania Beach, should really be seriously. So for anybody out there who is watching, I am saying Dania, D-A-N-I-A, and not nude beach. Basically, that's all I have to add.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to look into who's doing our subtitles, I think. Okay, now the rest of these are all with regard to Dania Beach Grill. First person is Maria DeVito. Please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes.
Maria DeVito. I live at 1951 Atlantic Shores Boulevard in Hallandale Beach. I don't understand why you're taking Paradise and making it a parking lot. I don't understand it. I don't know why. I really like going to this place. The music is great. It's friendly. People of all ages are comfortable there, like myself. I drive from 3 Islands to go there. And the musicians are wonderful. The people are wonderful. It's good for all ages. It's a wonderful spot. We have enough concrete. Why are we doing it? I don't understand. I'm here to say I don't understand. Could somebody tell me why?
Well, there's going to be a discussion about this later on, and at that time, I think a lot of your questions will be answered. And I think I can safely say that the plan is not to turn it into a parking lot. Correct?
Well, that's what I was told.
Well, that's why I was waiting for them to.
Oh, okay. I was just going to see if Colin could.
I think
speak to that real
let
quick.
everybody speak, and then it'll be addressed when we get to it. I think.
So it's not going to be a parking lot?
No. No.
Is it going to be another condo?
We're going to discuss it
Okay.
later on in the meeting.
Well,
So-
okay.
Okay.
I'm here. I
Mayor?
still have 1:46
Commissioner
seconds.
James.
Do you think it would be better for us to wait for all of these comments to the Dania Beach Barn Grill discussion?
Well, that's what I was going to do initially, but there's
Okay.
there's really only
Okay.
5 people that were going to make comments, and I know that Colin has a presentation to make basically about this,
Right,
and it
so-
may be beneficial that if he hears what they have to say, so that he can address it in his discussion.
Okay, I just didn't know how
So-
many people.
I mean, and we've already let her start at this point, so let's just and there's just a few more, and I think we can.
Am I dismissed?
You
Okay.
can leave whenever you like. Thank you. Okay. And it's not working. Okay. Next person is John Sanders. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
John Sanders, a homeowner at 214 Northeast 5th Avenue in Dania Beach. I need 30 minutes, but I'll do it in 3. I visited this town for over 20 years. My wife was raised in Hollywood on the Intercoastal. 6 years ago, I decided to bring my family here. We have 4 children, 3 adopted. We found a city that we felt was inclusive, that had all the things that we wanted: great schools, open minds, and a beach. And a town that has their second part of their name is beach. We have just a little bit of it. And I discovered the beach area, the pier, the marina, the ocean, and Dania Beach Grill, and the other restaurant, a quarter deck, very nice. And we decided that we hadn't just moved to the right place. We moved to an amazing, best kept secret in Broward. I really like that today, for a lot of reasons. In a world where disposable objects, people, dogs, animals, everything is thrown away to make room for youth and discard old, this city still has its personality on so many levels. Some great growth going on up in Dania Point. We have some great new venues going up there that offer great choices in restaurants and shopping. And we're for that growth and that tax base too. But there's just one open air beach bar that I know of that I love. A place where a child with sand being carried by folks from somewhere in our neighborhood or from around the world can get something to eat. It's also a place where someone can come in a wetsuit and get a beverage or listen to music. I have met people from all around the world at this bar. I'll make it short here. I was instrumental in running into the lady that decided that the Danish folks that lead the Danish National Performance Dance Team that came here 2 years ago, and they ran into me and they were trying to find their one of two venues in the country. And I said, well, I could probably help you talk to the right people, and they came. They did 1,000 workshops for this city, and it was put all over the world on their tour. And they, their last event, I said, where would you like to have your final event? They said, we'd love to go to that open air beach bar because that's what the beach is all about. And with 20 seconds to go, every week the JAW Steve group is cleaning the beach. This is part of the heart and soul of this community, and I hope you do the right thing for the voters and the people that come from out of the area and from around the world. Just keep it open air, keep it the great venue. There's plenty of other things and places we can do other things with. Keep the heart and soul of our city. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is Mitchell Mestel. Please state your name and address and keep it to 3 minutes.
My name
please.
is Mitchell Mestel. I live at 2641 Taft Street in Hollywood. Thank you for allowing someone from out of the area to speak. I'm a real estate appraiser, so I do understand highest and best use for places. I've also been a resident of South Florida, North Miami Beach, as well as Hollywood since '71, and watched all the places that were little places for locals go away. Hollywood used to have great little spots on the beach. Now there's Margaritaville. Dania Beach Grill is such a... I used to go there when I skipped school and went surfing because I didn't want to compete over at Hallover. And I'd be able to go get a Coke back then. The facility could use some updating, and if the people that are running it knew that they've got a longer-term lease where it makes sense to do capital improvements, I have a feeling I can make it better without taking away the charm of the place and, allow it to continue to flourish. I'm also a musician, so this is a little self-serving, but I will say this. As far as it being a profit center, we were supposed to play there Sunday, and an hour before the gig, it was canceled because of weather. So it ain't like I'm making a lot of money there. But, man, I like to go there when I'm not working. And I know a lot of people who feel the same way. It would be a shame for the place to disappear. As that said, there's only a few places left that really are what Dania used to be about. I mean, I can go to Grandpa's, go over to Jackson's, go over to the Grill, Jimmy's. I'm starting to run out of places, guys. And we are too. Please don't run out of all the places.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are getting some last-minute additions all about the Dania Beach Grill, so I'm wondering, Assistant City Manager, would you want to discuss this issue now? We could bump it up ahead and address these issues so that it might answer some of the questions. I know a lot of people are very upset about this, and I think there's some misinformation out there, so it might be good at this point to let Mr. Donnelly go forward. Everybody in agreement? Yes. Okay. Well, if they want to speak after this, that's fine. But I think we need to answer some questions first.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As the Commission knows, the lease for the Dania Beach Grill, it's coming to its natural end. It had a long-term lease and it was extended, and the lease was passed down from, or actually allowed to be transferred to the current business owner. The structure needs updating and the lease needs updating. And we're at a time now, we're looking at a beach master plan to improve the beach, to make it more resilient, and we're working on those plans now. We're also looking at a park master plan because the Dania Beach Grill sits in Tootie Adler Park. So we're looking to make improvements over there. So there's a lot happening with that parcel. And to my knowledge, the City Commission or staff has never talked about demolishing that building or turning it into a parking lot. That's never happened, and whoever's stating that is misinformed. You can go onto the city's website and put in daniabeachfl.gov/beach master plan. You'll pull up our master plan, and in phase 3, it discusses, and phase 3 is off into the future, about a possible relocation of the grill a little bit closer to the beach and realigning the road, so if you're at the grill, you don't have to cross the street to get there. So if there was some concern about knocking it down, that's where it would happen, but that would be sometime in the future. We're not at phase 3 of the grill, or the beach plan rather. But what we are at is a natural break in the lease cycle of that building, where the building needs to be upgraded. I think the current tenant would recognize that, and the patrons would probably recognize that. So what we've had some discussions, and what I'm asking the City Commission to do is to authorize city staff is to put out a request for proposals to restaurateurs who want to come in and give them their concept of how they would run that business, what type of business plan they would have, the food they'd want to serve. This is fundamentally the same thing we did for the quarter deck, and I think we got some good results there considering the last tenant and the tenant improvement. And the other part is that I'm asking, and I spoke to the current tenant, she's willing to go month to month until we can get this RFP process off the ground, and the current owner could, I would imagine, submit a proposal to the City Commission on their vision of what they wanted the Dania Beach Grill to be. And part of an RFP would be, this is what we're looking to do, this is what we would like from the city, and the city can consider a bunch of ideas and work a future plan into our master plan for the beach and for our master park plan as well. It's really a good timing that we're looking at doing this now. So that's really what I wanted to say on those particular issues. The one concern that the current owner has, or the current tenant has, is going month to month and having to be responsible for things that would be in a long-term lease, like some of the major capital items. So I think we can revise a month-to-month lease where they wouldn't have to be responsible for those things, but taxes which are paid in arrears would have to be addressed, as well as some of the safety issues with the latest fire inspection. Those have to be. It has to be operated as a safe structure, and some of the fundamentals about the lease need to be in place. But we don't want to do anything that would, prohibit them from going month to month. We can turn around an RFP perhaps in 60 days and have time to give the City Commission time to look at it and then negotiate a deal. So that could be perhaps 6 months, where you would want to have an operating business down there. And just from the response I see from the public, they seem to enjoy that type of beach atmosphere. And nobody's looking, at least from what I've heard from the City Commission, to do away with that type of establishment.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Lori or Kellen, do one of you mind coming up for a second? So we essentially have 3 options before us. So it's either renegotiating the lease, terminating the relationship, or doing the month-to-month and, going from there. And from what I understood, the month-to-month was something that made sense to you guys. Is that still the case?
I think the month-to-month is agreeable. What I haven't really gotten an understanding through the commissioners is, how we're going to go about this. I have employees. I get, a lot of people, as you can see, are here to, support us and everything like that. And that means a lot to me. It makes me, really, wow, that's incredible. But to go the month-to-month route, I think that's gonna be okay until you guys really agree on what you wanna do, like,
Okay, so I just wanted to know, from your end,
Yeah, I'm
you guys
open.
are still
Yeah,
comfortable
but
with
I'd like
doing
to have
the
a personal
month-to-month?
conversation with you guys and sit down
Yeah.
as a team and really figure out what the future is gonna hold for Dania Beach, and I think we are a big part of that. You know, Quarterdeck and us, we're the only two businesses there.
For sure.
Yeah, so let's, you know, like, again, like a month and a half ago, I said, let's work as a team, let's figure out where we wanna go and who we wanna be.
Okay.
And Dania Beach is Dania Beach, but if I can be a part of that, I'd love to be a part of it.
Thank you
So,
for
yeah.
answering that one
Just
part, and
for
then
the record, name and address.
For
Oh,
these
I'm
guys, everybody's sitting here, man, come on, listen to them. There's a reason why they're here. I appreciate that. Sometimes I gotta be late on the bills, but, you know, with these guys, with everybody here, that's support.
I hear you,
Just for the
Kellen, and I
record,
appreciate you.
it's
Do you mind?
special.
Just for the
Thank you
record,
very
could you give
much.
us your name and address?
My name is Kellen Barth, 65 North Beach Road, Dania Beach, 33004.
Thank you,
All right.
Kellen.
Thank you,
My-
guys. Thanks, everybody.
My second question was for Colin. If we did this RFP, do we have the discretion to say what we want it to be? Like, you know, we don't want a new fancy place going in there. Can we say? Did we hear? Don't. I said don't. We don't want it. Message received. Message.
Everybody be calm. Okay.
You heard me say we
Hold
don't
on.
want it, right?
We can't go back
Y'all
and forth
were on
with
the
audience.
same-
Hold on. No, I understand, but we can't go back and forth.
We're not going back and forth. We're all just confirming that we're on the same page. I hear y'all. You've been calling and emailing me, and you know that at 3 in the morning, because I don't sleep, I answer you back. You know it. Anyways, we're on the same page. I just want to confirm, though, that that's something that we could do, that we could say we don't want a fancy schmancy place. We do want to keep a beachy vibe. Is that something we could do?
Yeah, certainly, the request for proposals is that we would say what we would want. And some of the basics in there, if we had an idea of basic tenant terms, the type of restaurant you might like, you know, but the market is going to have to respond. If there's a market out there for a beachy type of place at certain price points, you're going to get those responses back, and you can evaluate those.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Just to piggyback on that, that also means that, based upon what you said earlier, that the current owners, the current tenants, can also put in for the RFP, correct? They can bid for it.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't have them do that. That would make sense.
Okay. Commissioner Brandon Marty.
Yeah. We don't want an empty building there. It's worse for us. Think about it, if you weren't in there. I mean, anybody homeless could go in there. It could be even worse than what it looks like now. We don't want it empty. Month to month is a lease I am for. I am also for putting out the RFQ to find out what other ideas are. Really, because we need to do that. And if you really ever stood and looked at the master plan, eventually, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but we're even raising that road. That whole road there will eventually be raised, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, in phase 3, is it, Colin?
Well, actually, that's part of phase 2.
In phase 2, but
for the
it's so that the
resiliency.
water doesn't affect anything. We want to raise that. I was for even putting a second level on something like that so people could see the ocean, because you can't see it from where you're at down there. I know. You can't. You got to, you know, I'm glad you're clapping, but you got to get in with the times. I don't want to see a shack either. And whoever is putting in for this with the bids, we all get the chance to vote on it. You follow me? Maybe I don't like it, maybe she does. And so that's what we do, we discuss it. But to really, month to month, and to keep them there benefits all of us. You don't want an empty building there. It just doesn't bring the right thing that you need for your area there. Not at all. By the way, they do make the best fish sandwich.
No, 1 second. I know you want to come back up. You can come back up, Colin. Again, just state your name so we have it
Hi,
for the
Kellen
record.
Barth, 65 North Beach Road, Dania Beach. Chicky, I understand your concerns. I've been there 5 years, and I understand the demographic. I understand what's going on. I try to involve everybody in the community, outside and inside, live music, this and that, you know, to embrace and appreciate the beach itself. I got the beach cleanup the first month, or first Sunday every month. I raised, money for turtle conservation programs, live music and, just people, families, this and that. Like, and to understand the changes that we want to make. Like, it can't just be right here. It can't be answered in front of the commission. It's got to be talked about, and it's got to be understood. And this is not just next year. This is for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Do we want to keep this place? Great. But what I need is a team effort. And I think the people behind me, again, they agree the same thing. Entertainment, great. The same building, awesome. But we do need to work together, because I cannot afford for what you guys are looking for, and for the second story or this and that, or a better view, a better parking lot. It's cool, but we got to really talk about it. So if you guys agree with me, I'd like to sit together with everybody, all the commissioners, and understand that we need to have a private meeting.
You can't really do that. That actually is a sunshine violation. It's a sunshine violation.
I
That's
don't
why
know
we
what
do it
that
in
is.
public hearing.
I have no idea.
The law
So who do I
says
talk
it
to?
has to
Who
be
do
a
I figure
public
out?
meeting if we're all together.
Sure. Well, are we doing this? Or
We're
are we
doing
gonna
that. We're
figure this
doing
out?
that now.
Awesome.
Commissioner.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Commissioner Harris.
Kellen.
Yeah.
When I met you a couple years ago, my background previously was in like food service management and equipment.
Yep.
And I see this long list of equipment that you have here, from fry masters to freezers to reach-ins, prep tables. I mean, the list is like 3 pages long.
Yeah.
I mean, how could we help you get the equipment that you need, whether it be new or used? Because there are food service equipment providers right here at Dania Beach that
Yeah.
could probably help you bring that up to standards, so you could put out a quality product and you have enough ice on a busy night and all those kind of
No, I
things that you
understand it.
want to.
What is not up to?
Well, there were some violations in the inspection, but
Right.
do you have all the equipment that you want? I mean,
Oh, I can use a few more things. Yeah.
I mean, could you
It'd be
use a
great.
new fryer? I mean, for your
I could
fries
use another
and your,
fryer.
you
That'd
know.
be amazing.
Well, I'm saying that if the city and we own the property, that we could help possibly.
Well,
Teamwork,
Wow.
baby.
Years ago when
Commissioner-
I first moved to Dania Beach in 2002, we used to walk down there on the mornings because it was open for breakfast, and you could get a really, really, really
Oh,
good
steak
fried
high,
egg
man.
sandwich
Steak
there for
high,
like
oh, yeah.
$1.99. So, I know the place, and I've gone there to watch. Why are you laughing? A fried egg sandwich, but and then you could go back at night and have a couple brewskis and watch the full moon come up. So I get it. So for everybody,
Let's work together. That's all I wanna do.
I'll be happy to help you spec the equipment, because I know people that sell it.
Thanks, Bill.
There are businesses that have gone out of business, and we could pick up a 2-bin, 3-hole stainless steel steam table with the top bins. I mean,
And your
and
Chicago style hot dogs are coming
I'm
right
saying
back.
that we're here to help you, Kellen. We're
Thank
not
you, Bill.
Yeah.
we're not, and we'll celebrate your victory when you're still there. So
Thank you, guys.
And then-
Thank you. That's all I gotta say.
Just to comment on this, it's something to remember that the commission is not the enemy here. The city is not the enemy here. But what we're getting into now is part of the negotiation, and that's not what we're here to talk about tonight, right? That's not what we're here to vote on tonight. Is not the new contract. It's a matter of what we're going to do if we're going to pick one of those 3 options that the vice mayor discussed earlier. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And if if you want to give some direction as to what you might want to see in a temporary lease as to assistance with some type of equipment, we can do that if that's something the commission wants to do.
Okay. And I know Commissioner James, you have a comment as well. I also want to see if anybody else wants to speak, because I do still have these. So Commissioner James, go ahead.
I'll wait until they finish. Bless you. You all right?
I do have 5 more
I'll wait.
requests here. Patricia Favre, do you still want to speak? Yes. Okay. Please state your name and address and limit yourself to 3 minutes.
Patricia Favor, 200 Southeast Fifth Avenue, Dania Beach. And thank you for giving us this opportunity. What I would like to say about the grill is that the grill, I would like it to stay exactly the way it is. It needs some improvements, and that is something that could happen. But what the grill brings to Dania Beach is continuity from one neighborhood to the next to the next. The music is from all different genres. it's a place where you can come and just be and have fun, dance, spend some time, watch the moon. But it has created a neighborhood feel that has transcended all other places in Dania, as far as I'm concerned. It brings magic to the neighborhood and to the people that come there on a regular basis, and people that just happen to stop by and they can't believe the luck that they have that they found this place. And if we can keep it the way it is, with some improvements, I think the dance floor needs a couple of new pieces of wood, but that, but basically it is a touch of old Dania that we could take into the future with us, but we don't have to change it and turn it into one more restaurant. It's so much more than that. It's a magical mystery tour. So thank you, and whatever we can do as your community, I'm in. So thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Neris Franco, do you still want to speak? Please state your name and address, and please limit yourself to 3 minutes.
I'm Neris Franco. I live at 13643 Southwest 92nd Court in Miami. And I come up to Dania Beach to that bar and grill at least twice a month and have been for a number of years now. And I've seen one haunt and one beach after another get ripped up and a condo put in for people who just want to invest in real estate somewhere else other than where they want to live. And I've seen nothing built, nothing taken care of for regular people who want to enjoy the beach also. And I certainly want to see Dania Beach Bar Grill music to retain what makes Florida so special and just have at least one little place that isn't carved up and built up and some place that we can all enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Brodeur. Please state your name and address.
Jeffrey Broder, Mayor, Commissioner, City Staff, City Attorney Ansbro. Good to see you, sir.
From where?
I'm a born and raised native of Hollywood and Dania. Grew up in Frost Park. Some of my earliest memories are of Mr. Bill feeding me hot dogs in this very building that you're talking about. There are two things that I would like you to consider as you consider the action items from the city manager tonight, as well as moving forward. Number one, the business climate in the city of Dania is always under attack because of redevelopment of your neighbors and the constant need to obtain tax base. That same process is also bearing out in our history and the buildings that we have grown up with, and that is why you see such passion from the people that are attending the Dania Beach Bar and Grill. I've worked for Kellen and Kathy as a musician, found them to be excellent business owners, have developed a good friendship with them, enjoy coming down, and the support that the Dania Beach Grill has from the South Florida music community. The professional musicians that come down on their days off and their nights off for benefits, for gatherings, the thing that they actually do there, because of the atmosphere and because it is not your cookie cutter developments that you see occurring to your neighbors of the north and the south. That is why you see so many people out here tonight. As you consider the options, I highly urge you to consider option 3 with short-term lease criteria so you can move forward and allow them to develop their business opportunities, because as landlords for your business tenants, it would benefit you to help them help you and give them the same opportunities for the RFP that you will be developing. I encourage you to make sure that when you do redevelop this property, that you remember that one of the things that's made Dania special for all of you and your families and your fathers and the people that have been here for the length of time that they have, is Dania has not destroyed its history just yet. The challenges of running any city in South Florida with redevelopment and tax base in order to fund what you need to do from a city government standpoint is increasing every single day. but the support that you have from the South Florida music community and people that come to the Dania Beach Bar and Grill, simply because it isn't like that, is what I urge you to consider moving forward when you craft your RFP and when you develop a business arrangement, hopefully with the existing owners, who quite frankly have turned that place around and generated tremendous revenue for you as it is. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Lee Ferrari.
Hello, Commission members.
Please state your name and address.
Lee Ferrari of Hallandale, Florida, 3120 West Hallandale Beach Boulevard, number 104.
Step back a little bit.
Okay. I'm not going to rehash a reiteration of what everybody else has already said, which is my thinking also, and most of the people here. But there's one thing that you may be missing on if you let this property go. I spent many years living in the Keys playing music professionally down there, and I have met countless people who have moved their businesses, moved their families, sold their homes, relocated down there, bought houses, built businesses, hired other people, contributed to the tax base, okay? Simply because of some place down at the end of the street where they could go and have a meal sitting by the water. And there's not many places you can do that in Dania. And there certainly aren't hardly any where you can listen to music in a place that looks like a piece of history, a genuine piece of history, walk across a road, climb over natural sand dunes and wild oats, sea oats, and go in the ocean. Even most of the places in the Keys, a lot of them, you look at the wall, you can look at the water, but you really can't go in it right there, okay? I have also seen where places have revamped, redone their places, renovated, and lost about half their business, and a lot of them have actually gone under. Point in fact, they redid the Rusty Pelican on the Rickenbacker Causeway a few years ago, made it all nice and pretty and modern and glass and chrome and everything, and its revenues are down. That's about all I have to say. I also remember coming up here as a kid with my parents when there was just sand around it, and I also used to skip school and come up here to go surfing too.
Thank you. Clayton Goldstein. Please state your name and address and limit yourself to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Clayton Goldstein. I live at 1035 Northwest 73rd Terrace in Margate, Florida. So first, it's refreshing to have a city commission that comes to this with such an open mind. You don't get that too often. You know, I was outside and I was looking at all the the posters of all the redevelopment and everything that's happening. It's amazing. And I drive down 95 and I see, you know, I was pretty bummed that the roller coaster was down. But I see what's coming up there. And I've been blessed to travel all over the world. I'm a musician also and an entertainer. And the Dania Beach Bar and Grill balances your town. It balances between that and what's happening in the history that I was outside and everybody's telling me the history of this place. And I guess the last thing is, as everybody's talking about stuff, and I think the town is lucky to have Kellen and Kathy, because they didn't grow up here, and it seems they want to work with the town and they want to keep the character of this and to make that happen and to have young entrepreneurs. They had a tough year. They had a tough year with the hurricanes and the red tides and the different things like that, and to have people like that with the energy that wants to be part of Dania Beach and part of the community, it seems that Dania Beach is fortunate. And as a musician here, I'm fortunate to have them too. So good luck, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Commissioner James.
So y'all not gonna clap for me, huh? I'm just kidding. I mean, you guys are so receptive to everyone else. I want I wanted that as well. I'm no stranger to the Dania Beach Bar and Grill. I haven't been there in a few months, but I frequented. Yeah, I've been a little busy. Hi, I frequent that business with my son because he loves the water, and that place really does give a feel of him being able to run around. I know we have a lot of upgrades of what we're doing with Phase 2 and things with Atla Park and a lot of issues that we discuss often outside of this commission meeting and with staff about bringing upgrades to the surrounding areas of the bar and grill. I'm going to try and stick to the script of what we are discussing here. Within this RFP that we are going to be putting out, first of all, I love the month-to-month idea because we don't really know where we are headed with this. But my restrictions, or my opinions of the restrictions, it needs to have an affordability concept to this. We don't need a restaurant that's like another Quarter Deck or price-wise that competes with the Quarter Deck. We need something that feels like home and you can just go even with your bathing suit and sit outside or enjoy it. When I go there, I do see residents that come. I see a lot of people that I do not know. Everyone is always enjoying their time. I'm always upset when they don't have the fish dip, but that's how that's how fresh their things are. I want to know what parts of the fish grill is the city responsible for? I know certain maintenance and stuff the city's responsible for, correct? Or no?
Yeah, we are responsible for the roof and the structural elements of it, the floors and the walls.
Okay, so within that, are those items up to code?
I believe the roof was checked about 2 years ago, and it was brought to code. It had a small leak. And I think, I'm not sure about the walls and structurally, but I think everything, the city, this is a building from 1947, by the way.
Right.
But as far as I know, yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
There are a number of other violations that just need to be addressed.
All right. Yeah, I guess my reason for saying that is because, I do see where they've tried to make improvements. I see the little walkway at the back with the little lights and the little patio and all of the things that they try. But this is a very, very old building, and I just don't want us to be unreasonable in this month-to-month and tagging them for every single thing, because this building is a very old building. And if we are going to go out and do RFP and we are going to, work with them, we have to make sure that we're not finding them for every single thing unless we're going around to every single business and giving it as much as attention as we're giving this business. I think I'm all for everything being safe, because safety definitely comes first, but we need to keep into account, the erosion and being one of the first protections that the rest of the city has when we get those storms, when they get those hurricanes and everything else. I definitely like the hometown small feel. I do want to keep some of the character here in Dania Beach. I do feel like we have a lot of redevelopment going on, and I just don't want to do away. Not saying that it has to stay Dania Beach Bar and Grill for the rest of our lives, but I do want to put an establishment. Hopefully, you guys get y'all stuff together and you present us with something that we can't turn down. But I think it would be irresponsible for us not to go out to RFP. I think that it is time for us to go out to RFP to see what other things are out there that keeps it fair and equitable, and it keeps the process very challenging for all of us. So those are my thoughts, but I'm definitely interested in seeing the tenant terms and what we have a say-so in, what we can restrict and not restrict, because I'm sure there are a lot of tenant terms here. But that's my 2 cents about the bar and grill.
Commissioner Brandon Marty.
Since it was already said what we're responsible for, there's a lot of things that also you are responsible for that have not been addressed. And as of 2018, I believe 7 of major ones that I have the pictures and it all written up from the 2018 that have not been addressed yet, regarding the handicap bathroom, event fans, and silly, crazy little things, but for some reason it meant something to the fire department. And also the taxes and the water bill. So I would want to see an effort made to bring things up to date on your own that you are responsible for. I really mean that, because that shows an interest on both our parts. Us too. We should too. Don't get me wrong. But when I see all these code violations and regular violations that are not being addressed, I want to know that the people that are running the place will address at least some of them. And as far as that thing out back, that was built without any permits. And it was fixed though, right? It was, I'm gonna tell you the truth, it was fixed. But they did build out and back without permits, and he righted it, because I went down there and sat with him and said, look it, by 12 o'clock, do get rid of something over here. You know, because code was already on it. But let's go, there's issues both ways. It all sounds great what they want to do for you and all that, but I'm telling you, you have to show, if you want my support, you have to show me where you too are cooperating and getting some of these violations taken care of that are solely your responsibility and not the city. And you wouldn't want me to be two-faced, I'm telling you like it is. That's how I feel. We wouldn't let anyone else in our city get away with 1 year of not paying this or 1 year of not paying that, and you know that. We don't do that. No one goes a year without paying taxes. Nobody goes a year without paying their water bill. So please, show me that you want to cooperate too. It's not one-way street. Because I'm going to tell you the second part of this. Because every one of you that came up here, I would say 90% of you do not even live in the city of Dania Beach. That's why we ask, wait a minute, wait one second.
It's not true.
When everybody came up here and gave their name and address, that's what we're looking for. No, I got Margate, I got Hallandale, I got Hollywood, There's Dania, I know him, he's a good guy. But there are a lot of people here that are not from our city. And do we get phone calls from our residents? Yeah, we did. But I called you on it. It was the noise from the music. And I got a weird one just today. Today, somebody said to me, oh, there's something on your agenda tonight. Was at our meeting. And I said, well, what about it? They said, well, they're bands that they use. Why won't they use a local? Try and do that once in a while, use a local.
They do.
There ain't any local bands?
They have. No, but they have. Okay, can we?
Well, they had said that, in fact, it was the Whipping Post.
They're local.
Right, they're local. They said they haven't been there in a long time and they would like to come back.
Commissioner?
That's all.
Commissioner, are you finished? Commissioner Brandon Marty, are you finished?
They don't live here, Bill. They don't live
Vice Mayor Odman?
I'm just telling you.
Hi. I know. All right, I'm not even going to ask for the clap. So I think we're at the point.
Yes.
Yeah, we are almost done with it because I think we've arrived at that point where we can pretty much make this motion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a motion for a month-to-month. Colin, I would like you to work with the owners for whatever they need to do with the back tax, wherever it is, because I don't know where it is, whatever it is, getting them back up to where they need to be. And from there, put out the RFP. In the RFP, we do want to specify what we talked about over here. Nothing fancy schmancy. We want a beach place. We want in line with what we've had, a place where local music acts can come, where people can sit in their bathing suit and have a good burger and have a drink, etc., in line with what we've had. So doing the month-to-month, so my motion is for the month-to-month and with the RFP until such time a new tenant or the current tenant is put back into place.
So your motion is for option 3 that we have on our list?
Yes, for those who don't have it in front of them. For option 3, is there anyone?
Just for the record, it's issue a request for proposals for the restaurant and keep the current tenant in place until such time as a new tenant is in place. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, some discussion before we vote.
Okay, within that motion, she specified certain things within the art. That's what the vice mayor's motion was.
We understand that there are some specific things that we want in the RFP.
Oh, okay, I'm just saying that's
yeah.
within that motion.
Right. I
though.
think we all understand that.
Okay.
But
The
before-
the RFP is going to come back, before we put it on the street, it's going to come back to the commission.
Right.
You'll see it before it goes out.
Okay.
So we can tweak it.
Before that, before we vote on this, I believe Commissioner Harris?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight
Yeah.
and voicing their opinion, because we all have our favorite places around the country, and this just happens to be ours in our backyard. I'm thinking about a couple places across the country. There's one in Virginia Beach, Virginia, called the Duck Inn. If you know where the Duck Inn is, you just kind of duck in there and grab a beer. Or the Blue Moon Cafe in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, or the Bodega Bay Cafe in Bodega Bay, California, where they filmed the movie The Birds. And you can go in there, and so this is our favorite place, and you know, I'm with you, and we need to save it and protect it. So.
Well, I'd like to say something, since I haven't been able to speak yet.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, okay.
Last
We're
thing.
good. Thanks for coming,
I just want to
everybody.
add, just to make a correction, there are an awful lot of local Dania Beach people that go to this location. I am one of them. I have been there several times, and there's a whole group of ladies over here who I have actually danced with at Dania Beach Bar and Grill. So I know that there are a lot of people that are locals that go. But it's a business. It's not a city business. It's a business. And, you know, obviously it's good to have people coming from other parts of the state and visitors from out of town and everything else that come here. And that makes it profitable, and it makes it a good place to go. But I do think that we would be remiss if we did not look at other options, which is why I think is the reason why this suggestion has come up, that we do the RFP while keeping the tenant in place on a month-to-month basis. And I have to say, I do completely agree that there needs to be specifics in that RFP that make this a beach bar, a location where you can come off the beach in a bathing suit and order a burger and a beer, or something to that effect, kind of like it is right now. But that's all I really wanted to say. Let's call the roll on the motion.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Brandemart,
Definitely, yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman,
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
And thank you all for coming out tonight. Okay. Let's get back to the agenda. The next item up is public safety reports. We might need a minute. Let's give a minute.
It's trying. It's trying. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I'll be brief tonight. I always speak about our recent trends in crimes. We haven't been seeing a lot of burglaries, but the ones we're seeing, people are being followed or watched in parking lots, going somewhere with items they just purchased, bags, whatever it is, purses, and people are just watching things being put in the backs of cars or left in cars at their homes, and those are the vehicles we're seeing being broken into. We've also seen a trend in package thefts. We've all seen them on TV, where Amazon or another company delivers a package on your doorstep. The positive side of that is a lot of people have these Ring cameras on their doorbells, and we are catching plenty of people with those too, which is a positive side to that. Another trend on a more organized level that the Tri-County area has been seeing, and I'm sure many other places, is organized auto thefts at rental companies, rental vehicle companies. We've been hit over at the Hertz before. I believe right at 2 weeks ago, I think it was right after the commission meeting, that evening, we received a call from a security guard over there on the property saying that he saw somebody crouching down behind a vehicle. So our senior midnight shift, led by Sergeant Hanson in the back and Sergeant Chavez that was here a little earlier, got a plan together. They set a perimeter up around the facility, orchestrated the helicopter, our aviation unit, to respond, K-9, and the helicopter lit up the whole place, and people just started running everywhere. But they caught every last one of them after a couple foot chases, so good job. We're almost positive. We'd arrested one that did that at the airport. Prior to that, he was out of jail already, and with another crew doing them. And they usually won't speak to law enforcement. You catch them red-handed, and they're not going to really speak to you. There was a subject that broke into a synagogue on Sterling Road, about the 2600 block, and stole $200 from the donation plate. We caught him as well. We stopped somebody on a scooter it was a Fort Lauderdale scooter, and it was reported stolen. So we got that back to them and took the suspect to jail. This morning, I don't know if you saw it on the news. I know they played it around noon. We started off our morning with several of our deputies witnessing a hand-to-hand heroin transaction. The suspect that had purchased the heroin was taken into custody. The one that sold it decided to take off, jump in his car, and get out of Dodge. Apparently, the other suspect, had pointed a firearm at one of our deputies, and that constitutes us being able to go in pursuit of that suspect. Drove through 5 cities, ended up crashing, still resisted arrest. We used our tasers, our electronic control devices, and he was finally taken into custody, and he was charged with the following: 3 counts of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, fleeing and eluding law enforcement, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, delivering heroin, and resisting arrest. He's also being spoken to by our violent crimes unit in relation to some other pretty serious issues and crimes.
Good job.
Thank you. I also want to remind everybody in town that we have 2 crime practitioners that are certified to conduct CPTED. It's crime prevention through environmental design. It's like a threat assessment of a property or a business. So if any business, any association, any private residents want some more information on it and to speak to our detectives, they're more than welcome to contact me anytime.
Commissioner Brandon.
Yeah, Danny, real quick, after listening to tonight's whole meeting, has our police department been taxed in any special way heavily with complaints where you had to go respond to the Airbnbs they're talking about? I'm just curious. Have you noticed that you've had a lot of calls on that?
When I get a complaint, the
Yeah.
first thing I do is have our analysts pull up all the calls for service in that area. Not
Yeah.
just that address, but I want encompassing areas. I'll pull every call for service in whatever time frame I choose. I usually do 6 months or a year, just to see if any months experience more of a volume of calls. So I'm not aware of any on that 8th Street. I was on the 4th. But what our deputies do now is when we get complaints, they get out of the car to do an area check of a certain area. They turn their body camera on, and they can observe everything for the viewer, which is usually myself or one of the sergeants or lieutenants, and we can see and hear everything.
But have you had a big rash of it, is what I'm getting at?
About the Airbnbs?
Yeah.
No, I
Okay.
do hear from residents about it, and that's a concern of mine because we need to be informed if there's a loud party, if there's any type of ordinance violation that we can address immediately. Loud parties, littering, anything against the noise ordinance, we'll do our best to find one and handle it. Yes, what we do is we end up giving it to Mark's shop, and they'll go out the next day and issue a violation.
Commissioner James.
Just want to say thank you to you and your staff for yesterday, and I know that it was a lengthy parade, and I think we did a great job, especially with Brightline coming, and it wasn't, you know, your officers did what they were supposed to do and kept everyone safe and organized. We saw a lot of your faces. Everyone was smiling and waving. It was just a great event overall. And I also had the opportunity to meet Sheriff Greg Toney, who was at the event. He has some pretty good dance moves, y'all. He was out there dancing, and he said he couldn't do the electric slide because he was going to sweat too much. So he was a lot of fun yesterday. And I especially want to address, you know, social media is crazy. And so I saw the event that you're speaking about this morning as soon as it happened. And I'm not going to, this is what you all are supposed to do. And I just want to thank you because that outcome could have been worse. Especially pulling out a firearm is basically suicide on a police officer. So I do want to thank the officers, whoever were involved, for de-escalating that situation without someone being shot, because I always say that, you know, we don't want to become another one of those national stories where it was a police-involved shooting. So I don't know what you guys are doing, but in that case, I'm very thankful that it turned out the way it did, because we could be having a totally different conversation up here tonight as a commission. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I just want to add briefly, in addition to the parade, there was also the park event as well. And there was a significant police presence there as well, which I think was beneficial, because I know in the past sometimes there have been events there and there have been some problems with people trying to harass the people that are in the park. I've seen some things in the past, and there wasn't any of that this time, which I think was a good thing. People could actually enjoy themselves and didn't have to worry about anything. And it was it was a very nice day. It was a really good event. So, and I want to thank you all for that. So.
Great, thanks.
Thanks. Anything else? That's it?
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening to all members of the dais. I would like to first take this opportunity to formally introduce myself to the newly elected mayor and vice mayor. I'm Sean Brown with the city of Dania. Sorry, it gets me every single time. I was one of the original firefighters with the city of Dania Beach, started in 1994, before the merger with the sheriff's office. I currently am a battalion chief in the Fire Prevention Bureau. And I kind of serve as a little bit of a liaison between the city and the sheriff's office. So I just wanted to let you know who I was, and it'll be myself, and I believe on the next commission meeting I'll be introducing you to our newest fire prevention officer for the city. And he will kind of be alternating with me up here and speaking to you all at the city commission meetings, okay? I just have one thing I kind of wanted to inform you of. I believe it was Memorial Regional in Hollywood and the city of Hollywood. It was a joint effort to get a grant for Stop the Bleed kits. For those who are not familiar with Stop the Bleed kits, they're kits that are utilized whenever there's mass trauma, specifically like mass shootings, cases like that. We have received approximately 30 of these Stop the Bleed kits. Fire Prevention Officer Brett Dunkel will be in touch with the city, if he hasn't already done so, to find out where you, the city, wish to have these placed. As they are right now, it's being recommended that they be placed wherever the AEDs are kept throughout, and it's not just for City Hall, it's for the businesses, the more populous areas where, you know, something like that could possibly be highly suspected of happening. Right now, we have stickers that will go on those AED cases that are mounted to the wall. Next year, it's my understanding they're going to go for a grant to get actual wall mount cases for those specifically. So, like I said, our FPO, Dunkel, will be in touch with the city to find out if you all have any place in particular that you'd like to have these mounted. And then probably after that, if there's any left over, we'll canvass the city for high target areas, and we'll have them placed in those locations. Other than that, that's all that I have.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Are we going to be doing any of the other classes to teach them what to do?
I can check on that for you. I don't know that for fact. I do know that they are presenting them through Broward Sheriff's Office. I will check if they're going to be doing them specifically for the city of Dania Beach, and I will get back
What
with you.
about memorial? Because I teach some of the classes, so I know that we do them to other areas that you're giving the kids to. I just want y'all to know how to save my life, so 'cause I know how to save yours. Well, let's just get someone else in here to teach the class. But if you're going to have the thing, they need to know how to
Sure.
work the tourniquets,
Yes.
because otherwise they're just going to.
And that is an initiative that they have in the sheriff's
Yeah.
office
Okay,
to
so
kind of
maybe
get
do
it
that
around. That's kind of separate from the grant
Right.
and the receipt of these Stop the Bleed kits. But I will check specifically to find out if, and it's my understanding, I do believe that they are going to have those in Dania Beach.
Great.
And I'll find out specifics on them.
All
And
right.
if not, we'll put the bug in the air.
Okay, I'm so glad we're getting those, because those are very important kits to have, and people will unfortunately find out how important and how, hopefully they'll never find out how useful they are, but how important
Yeah.
they are.
Yes. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is our consent agenda. And are there any polls?
7.4.
Any others? Anybody want to make a motion?
What?
You're not up yet. Not yet. Not yet.
Make,
Hold up, not yet. Hold up.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 7.4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Se-
opposed?
7.4, resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the release of code enforcement liens, city liens, and other encumbrances for 11 parcels of land conveyed or approved for conveyance by the city to the Dania Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA, for the purposes of affordable housing development, authorizing the proper city officials to prepare and record releases and related documents for each parcel for this purpose, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I was just a little confused, and I don't know exactly which department it is between the two departments. But before we conveyed these lots, I remember having a discussion up here. I can't remember the exact date, but we wanted to make sure, or in order to do it, we were supposed to have clean titles. I am unsure why every single lot has a lien or code enforcement, water bill. If you look at the backup, there are a number of outstanding city liens as of today, and I just want to figure out where did we go wrong, because we were told that all of these lots the titles were clean lots.
Mark LaFerrier, Community Development. The exhibit that's attached has a list of all the various liens that are existing on these properties. There's a clean title from the county and from other third-party entities that had interest in these properties previously, but there was never a clean title from the city perspective. There wasn't a title search done from the city's perspective.
Why?
So when we conveyed them over to the CRA, we did a final lien search for the city properties. The previous title search was done by an outside attorney.
So we've had some of these lots for a very long time, and there was no one in the department that can keep up with $155,000 code enforcement liens that we gave over to the CRA, or the 23,000 one, or the 17,000, like 81,000. There are it's a lot of money, and to my understanding, all of them cannot just be cleared away because some of them are enterprise funds, correct?
None of these, the only ones that are enterprise funds are the ones that are, if you're looking
I
at
see
the
three.
exhibit, you'll see where it says water bill enterprise funds.
So
and
we're
it
going to
is
have to pay for that?
$754.
So how are we paying for that?
The other liens are liens that were used, that were liened because the city came out and cleaned and mowed the property in previous years. Some of these liens date back to 1989. They're very old.
So do we have someone from your department that's going to be keeping better track of these properties? I mean, because this item was on Because this item was in P and Z, or was it in P and Z?
This item wasn't, but the properties were the subject of a
Right.
variance request before the Planning and Zoning Board.
And they couldn't do that before we did this. So they did that pending the approval of this, but I just want to be,
One of the things that that the department does is they check to see if there's city liens or any code enforcement actions on a property that has an application before the Planning and Zoning Board or the City Commission. There's been several times where someone might be coming forward to the City Commission with an application, but they'll have to clean up the title and pay off city liens or take care of a code enforcement matter. That's one of the ways where some of these properties came up, because these properties were going forward to the Planning and Zoning Board. My staff then does ask to have a title search done to make sure all the city liens are taken care of.
okay, I guess I was just trying to figure out where we went wrong in this process so we don't repeat this process. Is there a process that we can do that part first before we're conveying?
Well, we do it.
or-
That's what we do. Before an application comes to the Planning and Zoning Board and before it comes to the City Commission, we do a search to make sure that all city liens and code violations are taken care of. That process is what revealed these issues. So when they went before the Planning and Zoning Board, we did a search to make sure that all the liens were taken care of and any code enforcement violations were cleared out.
Okay, so the yes
So we're
came
just
from
asking the
Broward
City
County.
Commission now to release the liens.
So the yes that they were clear titles came from Broward County and not the city?
The clear title came from Broward County, and there was tax liens on the properties, and there were other third-party liens like mortgages and banks and and mechanics liens. Those things were cleared out before they came to the city. The city lien search was done when the application comes forward to the City Commission or to the Planning and Zoning Board.
Okay, do we have to make an approval for how we're going to pay for the $754, or are you guys just gonna, no, you're just gonna take care of that? Okay. You can't, because it's enterprise fund. No, you can't.
Can we put that on the record somehow?
There's a question that if the $754 could just be waived.
The resolution says that it's going to come, we're going to be taking it out of the miscellaneous operating fund. So the general fund will go back and pay the utility customers.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion to approve. One, if there's no other discussion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So no bids and requests for proposals. Our next item are public hearings.
9-1, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, to amend Chapter 28 of the Land Development Code of the City Code of Ordinances by amending Article 110, Use Regulations for Commercial and Mixed-Use Districts, amending Article 265, Off-Street Parking Requirements, amending Article 3, District Development Standards, and amending Article 635, Site Plans, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for inclusion in the code, further providing for an effective date, first reading of that ordinance.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Corinne LaJoy, Planning and Zoning Manager. Oh, we have so many screens now. This application is for a text amendment. We're making a few different changes is what we're proposing. As you all know, the land development regulations that we're currently utilizing, we did a massive rewrite in 2010. Those are the regulations that we're currently working on. The entire city is now under one code of ordinances. But as we, from time to time, and as we use it, we find that changes are needed. So this is one of those times that we're taking the opportunity to make some additions and revisions. The first is related to retail pharmacy. This amendment is to add retail pharmacy as a permitted use within the section, the permitted use table, identifying locational requirements that are already in place. So we're adding this use and we're cross-referencing it with the locational requirements that are already in the code. The next is regarding medical marijuana. The first is in the subsection is to add the medical marijuana retail center to the list of uses that are identified in the locational requirements that are already in place. We talk about pharmacies and pharmaceutical uses, but we're adding this term just to be crystal clear what we're talking about with these locational requirements. The second is to create a provision requiring all retail pharmacies and medical marijuana retail centers to be located only on properties fronting on arterial roadways. So it can't be a lot or two into a block. It has to be like fronting on Federal Highway or a major corridor. Third is regarding our parking requirements in our code. We're making a couple changes here. The first is to add the requirement for multiple family dwelling units for 2 bedrooms or more of 1.75 per unit, which happens to be the same as that's identified in the CRA form-based districts. For some reason, the requirement is left blank for the remainder of the city, so we're just correcting that error to make it consistent. The next is regarding medical marijuana retail centers parking requirement. Our code currently has that provision, but it's been determined by council that it's illegal, so we're striking it. But what we are adding is retail pharmacy parking requirement, which medical marijuana falls under. So now all retail pharmacies are going to have the same requirement, which is by law what we have to do. And here we're making the parking requirement 1 to 100, so one parking space for each 100 square feet of retail area. What we've seen is that there is a larger need for this type of use, so we're making sure that the adequate parking is provided by code so we can get them as the new uses come into the city. The next is regarding the Gateway Mixed Use Zoning District. Here we're incorporating land that's currently zoned Gateway Mixed Use into the illustrations in the Land Development Code. In our CRA form-based districts, there's a lot of illustrations, and for some reason there's a couple parcels, they're large parcels, that are just omitted from the graphic. And that's in 2 different areas, 2 different graphics in that zoning district. So we're adding those. And I think this is the area. It kind of cuts off right here. We kind of left off this whole parcel in 2 different illustrations. So we're making sure all the properties in that district are illustrated. The next is regarding South Federal Highway mixed use. We are requiring any new commercial development occurring in this district to occur on properties that front on Federal Highway and Sheridan Street, or to be assembled to do so. And this is kind of similar to the other provision that we talked about. The South Federal Highway mixed-use zoning district runs along South Federal Highway. It also expands in certain areas a little bit deeper than other areas. So we want to make sure that if we get a new office building or retail center, that it's not into the neighborhood next to a home. If that occurs, they need to assemble all the lots adjacent to that roadway. Regarding site plan modifications, this changes to add site plan modifications to the existing provisions that discuss the length of approval time. Right now it's silent, so it only talks about the original site plan. It doesn't talk about terms of approval for modifications. So we're clarifying that. And I think that's all. So these amendments did go before Planning and Zoning Board in December, and they recommended approval at that time. This is an ordinance, so it requires 2 readings of the commission. This is the first reading, but we're recommending approval on first reading, and we'll bring it back for second at a later date. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner James?
Yes. About the parking requirements, because, I do agree that they definitely need more parking than whatever is allotted. I want to know what's currently allotted. This was 1 per 100.
Right now, it's retail. It's just classified under the retail category, which is 1 to 300.
1 to 300. So
Right.
it'd be like 3 times the parking.
Right.
Okay. And to .5 that you have on there.
Yes.
I see Sheridan and Federal. Is it not going to address Dania Beach Boulevard or Sterling?
No, because those are different districts, zoning districts, first of all, and the parcels in those districts are much different. They're much larger. So normally they do front. We can go back and look at it.
No, not if it's not needed. I just wanted to know.
But Federal Highway, if you go look at it, is usually, even the commercial, the traditional commercial is not that deep. And so we expanded it into a couple of the adjacent properties, hoping that assembly would happen. So those other lots are pretty small.
Okay.
So if one squeezed in there, we really want it to be incorporated and have that assembly happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against?
Move the item.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
Thank you.
9.2 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the request made by the property owners Michael Garamone, Elizabeth Barrera, and Luis Larco to rezone property generally located at 36 to 54 Southwest 16th Street in the city of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy of which is attached to this ordinance, changing the current zoning classification of the property from residential office, RO, to South Federal Highway Mixed Use District, SFED-MU, under rezoning 5618 application, subject to certain restrictions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, further providing for an effective date. First reading of this ordinance. This is what's called a quasi-judicial proceeding. So anybody who's going to speak today to address the commission, I need you to stand for a second, including the staff. Anybody who's going to talk? Swear or affirm. Testimony give you the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. Thanks very much. Please be seated. Okay?
Good evening, Corinne LaJoy, Planning and Zoning Manager. This application is for a rezoning request. So the properties that are proposed to be rezoned are 36 through 54 Southwest 16th Street, which is also Sheridan Street. The zoning of those properties today is residential office. The applicant is requesting to change the zoning designation to South Federal Highway Mixed Use. These properties are in the Regional Activity Center, so the land use is not the issue. It really is just the zoning on the properties. The subject properties are made up of 4 individual lots. Together, they total 36,590 square feet. The properties are located on the north side of Sheridan Street, directly on that state roadway. Each of the properties currently has a single-family home on the lot, except there is one at 42 Southwest 16th Street that is actually a duplex. The applicants are requesting to rezone the properties to allow for redevelopment to occur on those lots. And this is the location of the aerial photo of those properties. It's the 4 properties on the western side of that block. Federal Highway is to the east, and Sheridan Street runs along the frontage of those properties. And this is what those properties look like. There are homes on the sites today. The change of zoning, what they're asking for is to go from residential office to South Federal Highway Mixed Use. The RO zoning district that's in place only allows a single-family home or an office, not both on a lot. So it is pretty restrictive what's there today. The South Federal Highway Mixed Use zoning district permits a lot more commercial uses. It does not permit drive-through uses, but it does allow a mix of uses, and they're all individual lots. So you could technically have a mixed use on each property if the zoning went through, this rezoning request went through. But what is a little peculiar in the South Federal Highway, well, in a couple of the districts in the CRA, South Federal Highway included, is that it requires a 25-foot rear setback on the lots, which generally allows a 2-story building height on the property. But there's also a sloping requirement, so any height would have to be sloped. The height of the building would have to kind of be stepped back away from the residential. So the further south you get, the closer to Sheridan Street, perhaps you could go an additional story, which is kind of trying to protect the residents to the north. So any height that occurs on the property would occur further away from those existing homes. This block is similar to the block east of Federal Highway, which does have the same zoning district. The only difference is that the blocks on the east side of Federal Highway have a street separating that block from the adjacent residential, where these properties in question, it's really only an alley that separates them, right? There are criteria identified in the land development regulations for rezonings. They're identified in the staff report. The applicant has provided a statement identifying how their requests are consistent with those criteria. That's in your package as well. And this is also first reading because we're changing the zoning on the property requires 2 readings. So tonight is only first reading. This also went to the Planning and Zoning Board in November, and the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval of the request. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions? I sure do. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak for or against.
I have questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner
No, it's
James.
okay. So it allows 2 stories. Are there any incentives that would make it go up in stories like we've seen other projects?
Because the size of the lots and the sloping requirement from the residential to the north, I'm anticipating maybe a 3rd story on the southern portion of those properties, because you have to have the sloping requirement that maybe they can get a 3rd and maintain that slope. So that's as high as I expect it to be, would be 3 stories.
And behind them are single-family homes?
I hesitate because there might be some duplexes, but it's definitely
Oh,
low
like one
density
story?
residential, yes.
Do we know how they feel about this change to the community? Because this is going to change the face.
Right.
And my only concern is that we're going to have another big block that's going to be redeveloped. We're going to have a lot of more residents because they're living near businesses. They're going to see the opportunity to capitalize off of it. And they're going to want to rezone their neighborhood as well. And I just don't want, I want to make sure if we are changing the character that everyone around them are very much well informed about what's going on.
Right. Well, this is actually the second meeting on this item, and we haven't heard from the residents, really just the applicants. And as I know, Joe Van Aaron was the guy in that neighborhood, and he's no longer part of the community, so we really haven't heard from that community on this application.
Yeah, I would be interested to know if they know, because a lot of people don't come to these commission meetings, and what we see up here, we get yelled at 2 years down the road. When someone wants to start building, they feel like the city pushed this agenda out,
Right.
and we've totally changed the character of that neighborhood, because let's be real, look how many people are here. They don't really come to commission meetings. They
Right.
aren't really as informed as, you know, some of the other residents. And before I make a decision, I want to make sure that everyone in their area is aware of this and okay with this.
We mailed notice to property owners within 450 feet. There's a sign on the property, and it was added in the newspaper. But I understand. I mean, my only consolation is that when a development does occur, it would have to go through the site plan process, and we re-advertise again. So we would invite everyone to participate at that time as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Harris?
Currently, there are no other additional development plans on that site, and I don't think we've heard from a lot of the residents since we talked about the 7-Eleven Plaza on the corner of Sheridan, which is, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah,
And then we did have
approximately.
I was at the meeting on
Okay.
November the 19th, which was actually the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
and There was no objections at that time either, so.
Correct.
In the event that there is a development plan, then it will be re-advertised and posted, and then we'll hear from residents at that time.
Correct.
That is correct. Thank you.
Corinne, if I'm not mistaken, there's actually a sign posted on each of those properties, correct? It's not just one sign?
There is
No.
a sign posted, I
A
don't.
notice sign.
Right.
posted. I believe that, I've seen it. I'm pretty sure that there's one on each of pieces of.
Yeah, I
property.
haven't drove by recently. I don't know. I can't say
Yeah.
for certain. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But I mean, there is a sign, at least one sign posted. Okay. This is a public hearing. Is anyone here to speak for or against? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandemart.
Yes.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next on to discussion and possible action. We've already discussed the Dania Beach Grill. The next item is number 2, the resolution.
Be a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, adopting a youth internship program for high school and college students, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Yeah, this is just put on here. It was spoken about, I believe. It was already spoken about, and we came up, and I asked the city attorney, and we had discussion back and forth with other cities and states, or how they did theirs, and came up with a resolution. And it might have been my fault or why it's taken so long to be on the agenda, but it's something I've been working on for a couple of years now, and so it's just time. I think that we have a lot of colleges in the area. We can get a lot of help around here. We are a growing community, and I don't see why we can't have an internship program. We have ASA, we have NSU, we have FAU, we have all of these, high schools and colleges that could benefit. I have a lot of emails that come to me asking, could they intern? And we don't have anything in place like a resolution so we can start the program, and so that's why it's here.
I just want to add, I think it's an excellent idea. My only caveat is that we need to make sure we identify which departments are going to use the interns and make sure that we have the appropriate staff to supervise them. That's my only.
For the
All of
commission.
them.
Oh, I thought it was.
I mean, no.
Oh.
I mean, we have Parks and Rec. Any of them that
everything.
want,
Sure.
I think it should be left up to the directors, and any of them that wants and feels like, you know, they could use the extra help, especially in the summer times. I think that should be left up to them. I don't.
Sure. Colin, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, actually, when Commissioner James came on, we did talk about this, and we talked about HR trying to, rebooting and getting up. So HR has finished their policy on volunteer / interns, and we'll bring that to the commission. I'll get you, we have a draft copy. We're just running it through our labor council, so we'll get that to you. And it envisions departments making decisions about whether they want interns and how they go about doing it, what part HR will play in it. And basically the fundamentals come down to if a department wants to have an intern, and when you're working with colleges and such, somebody's got to report back to the professor and write reports and get back to them. So we're moving towards doing that. One thing that I learned through this process is that internships and the like are very competitive. They're worth their weight in gold when you're going to talk about job experience. So it's a value that we can give back to our residents, but also on an equity and fairness level. That's why it'll go through HR and go through like a regular process of getting the candidates to the department heads and letting them look at them and choose who they're going to choose and come in and look at that. You'll see how it'll work when I get to the policy.
That's fine. When it comes down to department heads, I want us to also have an option whether or not we want to have an intern with us as well, because we're not a department head, so I don't know how that is included or not in this program. And lastly, I don't know if it includes us maybe writing a recommendation letter for their service, to an employer if their service was outstanding or whatever it is. Like if they stay 6 months or a year, I don't know what the terms are, obviously, but it has to be something, a reward at the end for them, especially if we're not compensating them.
Yeah, I agree for that general point of having that.
They're not paid.
It's a good idea.
No, they're not paid.
You're right.
No, this is not for a paid internship per se. This is not
So
what
giving them
I
a
mean,
letter of recommendation is great. You're right.
yes, I mean, I'll leave it open just in case anybody wants to ever change that, but I just want to get an internship program up and running. I think it's, it's been time for it to happen.
Do we need to make a motion?
No, it's just as
Do we have
part
a
of the.
consensus?
Yeah, I think we have a consensus. Okay. So, make a motion to adopt it?
Oh,
Well, my concern with the Scottsdale, Arizona one, that's what they do. They're a city of 245,000 people. We're not going to be doing what Scottsdale's looking to do.
No, that's fine.
That was just an example, I would take it.
Correct.
But coming to the next commission meeting, we'll have the draft policy, and we'll talk about bringing them for the commission as well. You can look at it, and something we can get in place for the summer season, because this is the time where kids start looking for internship programs
Right.
this early.
It was definitely envisioned to not copy exactly what they're doing, but to have some examples of what other cities are doing. And yes, we want it to be cut out exactly for what we need here, because I'm sure that we have different needs than Scottsdale. I don't want to only limit it to the summertime, but understand that we may have more during the summer than at other times. So I'll make a motion to approve the internship program.
Or I think it's to adopt the resolution.
Yeah,
I'll make a
Whatever.
motion to approve item 10.2.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, number 3, deferred utility payments for furloughed federal employees. Vice Mayor?
So I asked that this be placed on here. Last Thursday, Commissioner Harris and we went to, at Bass Pro Shops, Feeding South Florida was providing a food distribution for federal employees who had been affected by the government shutdown. And in that time, I met several families who either themselves were maybe a TSA worker or, some other federal worker, or someone in their family was. And because of that, they were facing financial hardship because of withheld pay. And, as we really have no real way of knowing how much longer this shutdown is going to continue, it seems to me that the humanitarian thing to do, the most moral action to take on a municipal level, where we here have some control, would be to consider a 30 to 60 day deferment of city utility payments. I talked about this briefly with Colin. Do you have anything that you could add about that, or that you were able to find out for me?
Yeah, actually, I would ask Nikki if you could just come up and just talk about, this is something we can definitely do.
Okay.
And Nikki can talk about, under the term of hardship, what we do with our regular utility customers and how we might implement this with furloughed federal workers.
Okay.
Hi, Nikki Satterfield, Finance Director, City of Dania Beach. Currently, the city does have an option in its ordinance for financial hardship, but that is typically something that's really more of a long-term basis. But I would envision that if you would like, we could implement something on a temporary basis, whereby an applicant would come in and basically, apply for a temporary deferment. We're not talking about waiving, so that's like a kind of a different issue. Just a generalized application, provide us proof of, employment, that they are indeed working and they are on a furlough, from the federal government. And then we could, potentially decide, as a group here, how long we would be willing to do that. I would think that, as long as they're on a deferment, we would want to probably continue with the deferment until they come back. We can either do payment plans, whatever is comfortable for the individual. What we really don't want to do is defer it out so far, though, that when they come back, they have this huge bill pending for them. I think we would want to give them ample time to pay that over time once they get back to work. So I would say, maybe 30 days after they're back to work, we could work out a payment arrangement. The only caution that I have is that, obviously the city would be at risk because there's a chance that some of these people might be tenant people that are not necessarily homeowners, where you would not be able to collect that from the landlord or from, another owner that's going to be moving in. So their deposits are probably not going to cover whatever the outstanding balance is. So I think it's a risk, that the commission would, need to take. But I do think it's something we could implement if you choose to.
Nikki, so we could do 30 days after the end of the national shutdown, and then they could go onto a payment plan so they're not stuck with one large bill.
I think.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
We would put them on special treatment so the account would not get disconnected for non-payment.
Okay.
And then after the 30 days, once they're back to work, within that 30 days, we'd ask them, obviously, to sign an agreement, that we will pay this over X amount of months and, see what's comfortable for them. I would probably not suggest any longer than, depending on the size of the bill, 3 to 6 months, because they're going to have to maintain their normal utility account on a monthly basis once they get back to work, plus the payment plan.
Absolutely. This is just to sort of account for the re-budgeting. And we're talking about a very small number of families here.
Yeah, exactly.
Very small number. These, I just happened to see, nurses that were wearing, memorial nurses, and, hey, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh, my husband, you never knew, he worked for the TSA. So we're talking about a very small but yet significant number of families that are affected. And I said, would this help? And she said, oh my gosh, absolutely. The biggest challenge I'm facing now is rebudgeting. That's what I'm doing right now, is I'm going from managing the 2-family income to even understanding it's temporary. We're now on my nurse's income, my one income. So yeah, being able to know that for the next couple of months, I have more wiggle room for how to do that, they said would be a tremendous help. So I'm glad to hear that it's a relatively low risk and that we could do it. We could do it easily.
And just to clarify, the only utility we're talking about is the water bill, right? Because that's the only one
Yeah,
that we're
water
really
and sewer, yes.
control over. Just my suggestion would be, and you don't have to follow it, but my suggestion would be that however many months we're out, they're out of work or they're not getting paid, would be, I would think, how many
How we
months
would
they would
defer
have
to
to pay
pay,
it back.
right.
That would just be, I would think, a common sense solution. Commissioner James?
I was actually going to speak on that. I disagree with that one part, just because there are a number of bills that they might be doing the same exact thing with. And if you're out of work for a typical family that's living check to check. A lot of people, you know, are almost homeless at this point. You're talking about families that have 2 incomes. What about the family that has 1 income and kids? And I've spoken with residents that outside of this have gone through the process, and I've brought it to Nikki, and they've had to extend their time for at least 6 months, and they weren't even out of work. So I would be in favor of this, but I have a couple of questions, and the first one, I guess I'll address that, is to not go for however many months they were out of work, because they have so many other bills that they have to pay, child care. You just don't know anyone's situation. I think that all situations are kind of different from what someone can afford or not afford. My second question would be, what about those who are renting? It'll still go for the people that are renting the same as homeowners? Is the process the same, or do we
Well, the
bill a
process
tenant,
would be the
or-
same if you're looking to go ahead and give that advantage to anyone who's on furlough. The process would be the same. The only difference is that the city is more at risk, because if an owner owns the property and they eventually leave the property, that lien follows with them, and them and whoever buys the house is jointly responsible for the water. In a tenant situation, that does not occur. If a tenant decides to leave the property, then the city is left holding that, and then you would be, using your normal collection methods to try to get the money, but chances are you probably wouldn't collect it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not too concerned. I just wanted to know how the
I
process
just wanted to
works.
make sure you were aware of it, that's all.
Thank you.
Do we have a consensus to go forward with this?
I'll make a motion to approve this.
And I'll make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Commission comments. Commissioner Brandamorty.
Yeah. I just want to thank Commissioner Grace, really, for the great job she did with the MLK. And I have to make the one comment that really got me. I never saw so many people come out and walk. They all came out and walked. When we started the parade, I was right behind the band. 3 blocks later, I never even saw the tuba. Because so many people came out of their homes and just jumped in front of the car, and it made you feel so good. You didn't care that you ended up at the back. And I want to thank also Gangrel's Restless Sun for all the T-shirts you gave out. The kids really loved it, and so did the people. And I think there was more than 300 given out. So I want to thank you for that.
Commissioner Harris.
He's looking for his agenda.
Oh, no.
Not too long.
All
But Mayor, based on the sound system and the problems that we were having at the last meeting, I want to make a motion to reconsider what we made a motion for, because I messed up my vote. When we asked for the vote for legal services to be postponed until we had a new manager, I understood it to be, that we were going to go ahead and do it. But actually, the motion should have been that we are not going to make any decisions until we have a new manager on board. So a motion to reconsider. No, it was a vote to go ahead.
No, it
and put out
wasn't.
an
It was
RFP.
giving them the right to go out, get an RFP. No, but
No,
it's
if
a
you-
RFP right now. We don't want.
But that's not
Yeah,
what,
but
if you
that's
look
not
at the
the same
minutes, that's
thing.
not what it says.
No, but I read the minutes, and it was unclear to me, and part
That's
of the
right.
minutes that I listened to were inaudible, so I just wanted to make sure I got it right.
No, you didn't, Bill. They
No,
sent
he
it out
didn't.
now. Didn't
We
they,
haven't sent
Mayor?
one out.
They didn't send it out now, but my reading of the minutes was that what they're
Yeah.
going to do is, based upon the votes that were given, was that they're going to actually create a new RFP now.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
what I said.
Right, but that's,
No action until a city manager.
and I think that's where the confusion, it sounds like. It sounds to me like that's what the confusion is, because I know that's not what I was saying.
Yeah, it was a little hard to hear, so
Tom, can you
I
clarify
apologize
that?
for that.
Because I'm confused.
Prepare it, and then I think that you amended it, Ms. James, to put it in draft. And I think his concern, if I'm not going to speak for him, was that not that to be done until the manager is here.
Right.
Then
So
that's
that's-
different, but I'm not sure that's what he understood. It wouldn't even be drafted until the manager's here.
Yeah, don't get drafted till after we vote a manager in, though, is what we wanted. You didn't want it to go out now, right? That's right. So
Well-
he wants to change his, so he's on the winning side.
No, he can't. He voted for it. You can't change it because you're on the winning side. I don't know what kind of.
He's on the, if he wants to do a motion to reconsider, on the prevailing side, he can do that, yes.
Can, it's a law.
So is that what you want to do?
Okay, so now I'm confused. So my motion was to get an RFP to see what's out there and to not make a decision until we had a city manager. It was very clear when it was up here. And no action would be taken until we got a city manager. We had plenty of discussion.
And
Were you clear about that?
I was clear about the part that we had plenty of discussion,
Right.
but I had a question about
Right.
the vote. That was my
That's his-
question,
his
was
right.
about how we voted. I voted,
How did you vote?
I voted yes.
Oh, I know.
And I recall my part of that discussion as well. And what I was saying at the time was that I thought we needed to wait until we had a city manager before we did anything.
Right.
Simply
Anything out
because we wanted to go there. We wanted to go and see what we were going to have with the city manager.
Right.
So we didn't end up having two major positions out there at the same time. And I took it.
Well, that
it
wasn't,
was- it seemed-
but
it
Mayor,
seemed
that
to-
wasn't the motion, right?
I'm sorry?
But that wasn't the motion, correct? We had plenty of discussion.
Well, I voted no on your
Correct.
motion.
Correct.
And that was the reason, because what I had said. But I personally got the distinct impression that
Yeah, that's
Commissioner
why
Harris
I voted with
thought
no.
he was voting for something else.
Yeah,
And
crazy.
so I don't know. I mean, it's not my
Yeah, you're
place to
right.
say.
It was it was the way that you say it was wrong. I mean, that you're considering now to whatever it is. You're right.
And I
So
can.
Tom told
You
absolutely
sure
you're
can.
the
There's been a whole
prevailing
bunch of
side.
discussion outside of this, so you sure can.
So, Tom, do you want to reread the motion and then allow Commissioner Harris to vote on whatever motion you read to him now? If he states that he was unclear about what was being said?
Right.
First, he would do a motion to reconsider, and if that gets a second, we start from there. So he would make that,
So I want to do a motion to reconsider.
That's right.
and if there's a second,
Okay.
Second.
and then you call the roll on that motion, under Robert's rules.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor Odman,
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now, Tom, do you have the minutes from last meeting for where the motion is written? They want you to read that, I think. Is that right? You want the motion read aloud?
Yes, please.
Yes,
From last
please.
meeting?
For Commissioner Harris, please reread the motion so he knows what he's voting on.
Oh, from last time?
Yes, because that's what he was unclear about.
Correct.
So I want him to be clear in what you're voting for.
And I want to make sure that I'm clear, and I want to make sure that you all know that I'm clear.
Good for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Because I've done my research, and I want to make sure that I'm clear.
This is right.
Well, he's only right
Well,
because it's something you agree with.
At this point, you can make a motion of your own. That's what you choose
I
what
want
to
to
do.
make a motion that we not do anything until we have, not do an RFP, not do any additional thing in legal
Right.
services until we have a new city manager, which could be any week now, I hope.
Right.
And that's my motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart,
Can we have
Absolutely,
discussion?
yes.
Can we have discussion?
We can have discussion.
Okay, great. If that's the case, are we gonna hold all RFPs until we get a new city manager? That's my discussion for the entire commission, because we just put out an RFP to say about Dayton Beach Bar and Grill. I'm sure there are other RFPs that are going out, so and so I wanna know, are we doing the same thing for all of them, or are we picking and choosing?
I think this had more to do with hiring of people that we directly hire. It had less to do with other RFPs that are going on within the city. This had to do with two major positions that both report to us.
Yes, but no decision was gonna be made, so back to my question, are we gonna do the same thing with all of them because we're going to have to come to a decision with Dania Beach Bar and Grill.
I've already answered that question.
Yeah,
I've
take
already
each
answered
case
that.
separate.
Exactly.
Well, I'll hear from the rest of the commission because y'all getting real slick right now, and we need to tone it down before it go left real fast.
Go left.
All right,
I
so
can do that.
if I can just speak.
Go
for a
ahead,
minute.
Vice
So
Mayor.
let's, I think it was asked and answered, Commissioner and James, and I think at this point, it's Commissioner Harris is right if he wants.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You and I seem to be clear on how we voted, and if another commissioner is not, then we certainly do not want him to feel that he did not have the opportunity to voice what he wants to do. So with that,
Yep.
let's just call the roll.
I would like to comment on that.
Go ahead,
I wanna
go ahead,
thank
Commissioner
you-
Brandon
I
Martin.
want to thank you, Lauren, because you took this same attitude, which I loved, when I said that, I'm sorry, but maybe it was age, I don't know, but I could not read 76 people that put in for a manager's job in 3 days. And you sort of stayed on the same thing on this, and I commend you for that. Which I can't read 76 people that put in for the manager job in 3 days. They can.
Go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Brandemart,
Do you want to read the original motion
Please.
again?
I want to give him the right to do whatever he wants to do. Yes, I guess it is, right?
this is a motion to put everything on, to do with the legal department on hold until we have a city manager in place.
You mean the RFQ out?
Yeah, the
Oh,
RFQ.
absolutely, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
No.
Vice Mayor Odman,
No.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Did you have any other comments, Commissioner Harris? Commissioner James?
Yes. I forgot my train of thought. I think that the water tower looks amazing.
Yeah.
If we haven't seen it yet, if you go down Sterling Road, we have a big brand new logo on both sides of our water tower. I am too a part of the MLK festivities that has happened over this weekend, and I would be remiss not to include all of the departments that had a major role in our gala, our Peace in the Park, our prayer breakfast, and that includes public services, that includes Parks and Recreation with their staff, that includes the CRA and their contributions to this event, and it definitely includes BSO. It was a collective effort. I feel like this has been the best one yet. And I think that we have so much potential and opportunity to grow from this. And I think that we have opportunity to expand and to grow from this, and where we're going as a city as far as that one event, it tells a tale. I mean, the park was packed yesterday, and it was the most amount of people I've ever seen for that event. The church was packed yesterday. We had a great service. The parade had over 60 participants in the parade and a lot of community involvement, but we still have a lot of room to grow. So I want to thank all of you all who came out to help celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with the MLK Renaissance Corporation. That is it for me tonight.
Vice Mayor?
I'm done for this evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
I just have one thing, and I really hope this doesn't turn into a negative thing. I just want to bring it to people's attention. Well, first of all, is it my understanding that the trip that you all were going on this week was canceled?
Wow, really?
Well, I'm sorry. You know what? Actually, you're better to speak on this.
Lord. Yes, the trip was canceled because in speaking with Mr. Gabaton and waiting this out day after day after day, the other part of why we were going there, he couldn't even put an agenda together because of the shutdown. We had reports that certain parts of the conference were going to be canceled, but they would not confirm. And so instead of spending the amount of money on everything and getting, you know, different monies for food and stipends and all that other stuff, I decided first with Mr. Gabaton that it wouldn't make sense to go up there and we couldn't do the necessary meetings that we were planning to do. Even though we could have still attended some parts of the conference, we were unsure of what parts of the conference were still going to be there and what parts of the conference were not going to be there. Therefore, I elected to cancel the travel. We are working on getting our registration fees back from the conference. I've been speaking with their assistant and the organizer of the Globetrotters, however they state their name of the company that they use as a travel agency. But what is your question?
Okay, well, Vice Mayor,
I was just going to add on that two of the workshops that I know I was hoping to go to presentations had been canceled. The speaker wasn't going to be there. So I know on my end, I certainly was not going to go to Washington, D.C. and come back and have nothing to tell you. So I was very, very upset that we had to cancel. But unfortunately, you know, that's just something that's completely outside of our control on this one. So it looks like we're going to get most of the money back, I'm hoping. And, you know, it's just unfortunate thing.
And I appreciate
Yeah, go for it.
Couldn't they reschedule it, and knowing that it's still an important issue?
This is their conference. I can't run their conference.
Oh, they're not going to, they didn't say we'll try to do
No,
it at a later date?
They're still doing it, whatever they can do,
Whatever
but
they
if
can.
it's not a
Right.
complete conference, I don't want to be a part of it.
Okay, so.
Okay.
And I appreciate all that. I appreciate you all getting the money back, and that is helpful. My concern, and as you see, I didn't pull your trip this time, because I know, Mr. Commissioner Harris, I know you have a trip coming up as well. It was on the consent agenda. My concern is the spending overall. And I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time here, but I do think that we need to look at it not as though it's just money from the city that's going towards these things, but if it was your own money, would you go on this trip? And the reason why I say that, would you pay the money for it? Would you go on the specific trip? The reason why I say that is I actually had the numbers pulled for the last several years of how much was spent on travel for the commission. In 2014, it was less than $1,000. It was $998. 2015 was $10,000, $390. 2016 was $6,134. 2017, it went up to $12,699. 2018, it went up to $14,000, almost $15,000. For 2019, so far, if you include that trip, we're already at over $12,000. We're in January. And my concern is, I know we can pull the money from other places. I know we can pull it from contingency, but we're also using that contingency money to put towards things like donating to different groups, to, you know, we may be helping out with a variety of things. I agree that it's important to go to certain events and certain conferences that are important. I just want us to be conscious of the amount of money that we're spending for these things. And like I said, it's January. And if that money didn't come back, if you all went on that trip, it would be over $12,000 already put out there. We only have $18,000 budgeted. We'd have to go, the rate we're going, we'll be looking at, we wouldn't even have enough money to go to Florida League of Cities at this point. We'd have to pull money to do that. So that being the case, we're looking at, if you keep going with the same trends, you're talking $25,000 to $30,000 just in travel alone, minimum. And it could go up from there. So all I am suggesting is that I think we all need to be conscious of what it is that we're spending the money on. And if it's a trip that you really want to go on, it's a conference you really want to go to, really look at it and decide if it was my own money that I was spending and not taxpayer dollars, would I want to spend that money for this? Would it be enough benefit for me? And that's really all I wanted to say about that. Commissioner James.
Yes, Mayor. You know, when I was elected to serve this city, I attended a lot of meetings, which if you go back a little further, your numbers will be a little different. We have a different commission. We have a different economy. We have different ways people learn. And quite frankly, I am not going with anyone's formula, no disrespect, on how I need to decide whether or not something is of value. I would not come up here and request something that I feel is not of value. Now, it may not be of value to you, but I do not think you are elected to tell us where we can go and what classes we're going to go to and what spending we're doing. Because if you're going to do that, you need to look at, you want to be physically conservative about this, but not other items. If you want to, you know, scrutinize travel, you need to scrutinize every single department and what they're spending. You need to scrutinize this RFP that you just voted against and what they're spending. You need to really be fair and equitable. And quite frankly, it's getting really old. Always, you didn't even pull Commissioner Harris's travel, but you pulled mine. I don't know if it's something personal. Listen, I love you at the end of the day, but I'm not here for it. And constantly coming and telling us where we can go and where we can't go and what it like. Go pull all the bills. Go look at all the things that we're going through litigation with. Go look at all of the insurance thing that we're going through. Go look at what we're spending on every single item. Do not question me about if I would spend my own money. I serve this community of 30,000 residents for a fraction of the cost that we have to put out of our own pockets on what it costs to travel. We don't get gas reimbursement everywhere that we go. We don't get clothing reimbursements everywhere that we go. And like certain departments, we don't get a $500 stipend just to spend however we want to spend it wherever we go. So if I see a conference and I think that is going to be beneficial to the city, I'm going to put out a travel request. It's going to continue to get more expensive. You have to pay for bags. The economy is going up. Prices everywhere are going up. It's not going to stay down. We are increasing our revenue, and so what if we have to increase our budget to go and represent this great city?
And again, I'm not telling you what to spend the money on.
Thank
I'm
you.
just making a suggestion as to how to look at this, considering the fact that the amount of money already spent so far for this year already almost exceeds what was spent in 2017, is getting very close to what we spent in total for 2018.
Well,
Commissioner
that's
Harris?
fine. You don't have to travel, and we will.
Commissioner Harris.
2 years ago, when I traveled for the first time, it was EIMO, which I think you all both have to go to as new elected officials. It's state mandated. I made because I am in the travel business and I have discounts with other hotels. I think the hotel, where was it, a Holiday Inn where you stayed?
I do.
Oh, excuse me, she's over it. She's over it.
Wait,
But
you gotta
anyway,
wait for me.
instead of staying at the
Hey.
host hotel, I could have stayed next door at the Marriott Residence Inn with a travel agent rate. And they said, no, you have to stay at the host hotel, which is more expensive. So, and then with the National League of Cities, when you do the registration and they won't let you book the hotel and tell you where you're going until after they have the money for the National League. That's how they work it. So if we can ever, stay in a less expensive hotel, I'll be more than happy to do that. But those seem to be the rules. You have to stay at the host hotel.
I understand that.
But I think back in 2010, 12, 14, there was a moratorium by Mayor Duke on travel that nobody was allowed to travel. Is that right, Colin? What years were those?
Yeah, I think it was during the time when they couldn't agree on a fifth commissioner. They put off traveling.
Okay. Commissioner Brandon first. Commissioner Brandon.
with all due respect, Mayor, you are so out of your realm of authority up here. So out of it. Can you count to 3? We would never agree to worry about the expense for continuing education. Look what happened tonight with the Airbnb. If we didn't go, we wouldn't even have answers for these people. I don't care what the amount is of the money that we're spending to go for continuing education. And I'd never, look at Bill. We've encouraged Bill to join every, poor kid, every organization known to man Bill is representing this city in. He is, and we agreed. We agreed. I would never say to Bill, no, you can't go. And I don't tell you right now, as long as we can count to 3, you'll never see the days that you're thinking we should be thinking about. Because I will never say no to the girls unless it was going to India. And that's only because I was jealous she wasn't taking me. But that's how I feel. I will never say anything. Why? Because when tomorrow comes, you're going to do it to me. I'm not going to do it to Laura, and I'm not going to do it to Tamara, Bill, or even you. I won't. You work for a law firm. Do they send you places?
If I have to go.
You have to go.
But
Do
in
they
all
pay
honesty,
for it?
I put the money out first, and then they pay me back later.
Okay, but you do get it back, right?
Eventually.
There you go. Case closed. We
But
do
I also make every effort to do it as cheaply as possible, and I'm just
not going to go stay
and I
at
make my choices
Days
as
Inn.
to which things I will do in person and which things I will do by video telephone conference.
But you're the first
So-
mayor in all these years that have ever even brought up something something like that.
I'm strictly concerned about the amount of the spending at this point. It's January. If we were in June and I saw $12,000, I wouldn't be as concerned.
So
I'm
why are you
concerned that we're in
concerned now?
January,
We've got
'cause
the
it's
money.
beginning of the year.
We've got the money to
I'm
go,
concerned-
and they have the right to go. It's part of the oath they took when they became a city commissioner.
And I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for it to go for anybody to go to anything. I'm not telling people where to go. I'm just asking that we
Don't
pay
ask for
closer
something you're not
attention to
gonna
it.
get.
That's all. I'm just asking that we pay closer attention to it. Vice Mayor.
Don't you ever say no to me. I'll kill you.
I'd
never say no to you.
Mayor, I appreciate your reminding us to be mindful of the spending and of how much we are using at this point in the year. Respectfully, I will say that you can anticipate that that number is going to be high this year. You have a commission that sees great value in travel and in what we can bring back by going on these conferences. And I took objection to the word trips because this is in no way a trip. If it was a trip, we probably would be on that plane next week, and we'd be, tomorrow. Okay, we'd be on that plane tomorrow if it was a trip. But it's not. It's an opportunity for us to be better commissioners. And again, I appreciate so much Commissioner Harris and what he has done and what extra responsibility he has taken on. I am so grateful for Commissioner James, who continues to build these relationships and network, and then is willing to help me create those same relationships so that I can be more useful to you. It is of extra expense to all of us. Finding childcare and finding, somebody to cover you when you're at work and all these other extra things is certainly a way that we are very mindful that this is the taxpayer dollar. And so when we evaluate one of these conferences and what value do they bring to us and therefore to the city, it's not something that we take lightly. It's certainly nothing I take lightly, and I don't think that I've ever heard any of the other members of the commission take it lightly. So with that, I would just say that thank you again for your reminder to be mindful when we are choosing our conferences and how to continue our education, but to please expect that we will continue to travel and we will continue to attend these conferences and be able to make better decisions for this city. So thank you very much.
And just my last thing that I want to say is I'm not putting a moratorium on travel. I do think that there are definitely certain conferences that are necessary. I think that there are certain ones that are absolutely beneficial. I think that Commissioner Harris, the one that you're going to in March, I think is a good one, and I think that you will learn a lot and be able to bring back a lot to help the city overall. So it's certainly not a matter of telling people what they can and cannot do. I just simply wanted to make sure everybody was aware of how much money has already been spent, because that's just something we don't always think about as we're up here saying that we want to do certain things. That's all. We have appointments next. Does anybody have anything for airport advisory? Vice Mayor, you have 2, Commissioner Harris has 2, and Commissioner James has 2.
Oh.
Nobody?
I wonder why nobody wants it.
Commissioner Harris, you look like you're thinking about it.
Not for airport, I don't have anyone.
Okay. How about Green Advisory Board?
I do.
You don't have one open.
You can have mine.
Oh, can I give mine to?
Nope, I already did.
Can I give mine to his?
Green Advisory Board, I have Alexis Gillen, and I'll give you the information, Tom.
Thanks, that's mine.
Okay.
You already have, let's see, you already have Patricia Chuckerman, her term goes through November 2020.
He's giving it to Commissioner James.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
From one of those Civic Plus forms that was sent in October, so.
Okay.
I'll give it back to you.
Okay. How about Marine Advisory Board? We have Vice Mayor Odman has 1 appointment, and Commissioner Brandon Marty has 1 appointment, and Commissioner James has 1 appointment.
No appointments.
Is Chris Burrell on that?
You've already got him. You still have 1 more.
I still have one. Who came off? Oh, she's a city employee now, that's right.
That's what gave you a vacancy, yes.
Does anybody here want it?
I have a question. If they're a city employee, they can't be on the Marine Advisory Board?
They can't be on any board.
advisory board?
That's not true. It is? Well, okay.
What'd you say?
Yeah, it's true. It's correct.
That's a shame.
Well,
I don't have.
so
any.
nobody
You
for
want
Marine
it?
Advisory?
You want somebody? You want somebody?
I've already appointed 2 people, so.
If you look at your rosters, there's members that are still serving, like at the pleasure of Commissioner Grace because of the 120-day stipulation. So you may get an idea from the roster of someone that you might want to reappoint who wasn't initially maybe your appointment.
I'm going to have to take one of my appointments off because one of my appointments work for the city and they've been serving since I've been elected, so.
Who?
Kayla Gardner, she serves on the Education Advisory Board. She served on, Parks and Rec Board. And she works for Parks and Rec. Nobody ever told me she couldn't be on there.
You mean she's been on since Louise was here?
She's been on since 2016.
So then we probably need to
Whoops.
remove her.
Yeah, nobody I gave the address.
Okay. So we're gonna need to remove her from whatever board she is on. Okay, how about Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs Board?
Great, now I have to.
Does anybody have anybody for that?
Nope.
Which one?
Parks and Rec?
Oh,
Vice Mayor has 2 appointments, Commissioner Brandon Marty has 2 appointments, Commissioner Harris has 1, and Commissioner James has
did
1.
I put Jimmy Peterman on something?
I believe that was your intent to appoint Jimmy tonight.
Peterman on Parks and Recreation. He's
It's a
mine. I
reappoint.
put him there.
It's a reappointment.
Oh, okay. No, I know.
Anybody else?
I have one for Rec, Parks and Rec.
Go ahead.
I'll give you the form. Tamara Fishman, Dr. Tamara Fishman. You send the form in.
Anyone else?
Parks and Rec. Craig, you want to be on Parks and Rec? No. Candace got the school.
And Planning and Zoning, we still have 1 alternate.
I want to put, Mr. Newby as an alternate. David Newby.
Okay, so we need to make a motion to approve the appointments and the one removal from 2 boards.
That's funny.
You don't actually have to approve that removal.
Okay.
It's an automatic thing.
Okay, so does somebody have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve everything.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I didn't hear anybody. Aye. Anyone opposed? Aye. Okay. Administrative reports, city manager, or assistant city manager.
I've got a few things, but I'll go quickly in order of most importance. The MPO met with Broward County Administration and the Broward County Municipal Managers Association last week to discuss the transportation surtax. The county is looking to approve an ILA agreement with the MPO and how it's going to operate. The discussions with the managers circled around what to do with the 10% that's the municipal share. Right now, that money is doled out by projects on a year-by-year basis. The managers thought that perhaps a per capita sharing out of that money and allow the municipalities to appropriate those funds how they saw fit. We're still having more discussions on it, but it's something I'm going to have to bring to the commission. We'll have to approve an ILA or send a motion of support about which way we'd like to go in approving the ILA that's be going forward. So I haven't even had a chance to talk to you about this, Commissioner Harris, and I wanted. Right. Yes, yeah, I've got a draft version now that I can circulate it. Okay, so I would like to sit down and just discuss that whole process with you. And also, we received notice today that our LAP grant, which is the streetscape project for the Northwest, we have our notice to proceed, which is they've approved the funding. So at the next meeting, or perhaps, I don't think any later than that or any earlier than that, we'll be getting back to you with a notice to go out to bid. We have the bid specs are done, so we're ready to go out and start that project, and that's for July. It's one of the mandates when you get into the LAP program that you follow their schedule. So we'll have another project coming to the Northwest this summer.
Question? Will there be any street closures?
Well, probably.
It's a very heavily traveled road.
Yes, I know, but due to the financing schedule, there'll be something we'll have to work around. A lot of these are crosswalks, so if they're closed, it's not for an extended period of time. We're not ripping up roads. We're doing crosswalks and lighting and the such. So I don't think it would be anything that'll impact it, but I'll have the engineers look at it and get back to the city commission. You know, the beach sand project, that's going forward. The contractor is looking to do that in the beginning of the month. Staff is attending, or either through call-ins, the weekly meeting on that with the Army Corps in Broward County. And also, I've been speaking with Ronna Brown, who works for our legislative consultant, and we're going to be putting in legislative funding requests. We do that every year. This year they feel, as in other years, that water projects would be one that we'd probably be most likely to get some funding for. And we're talking about putting in an application to offset our costs for the Northwest-Southwest First Avenue water line that we're planning on. So I'll be putting together that and getting to a legislative agenda package. And in that will include language having to do with Airbnb, so we can give clear direction to Mr. Book and to our legislators that this is a matter that we want the legislature to look at again, since that came up tonight. I believe that is it. Lastly, that Katya is going to maybe contacting you, or she'll contact you to do real quick vignettes, little videos for advertising purposes for upcoming events. The motorcycle show is this Saturday, and for the arts festival. So if you want to work with Katya, she can do something that perhaps you can put on your social media, or we can do some more positive social media advertising through her. So she's going to reach out to you, and that's all I have.
City Attorney?
Nothing to add.
City Clerk?
Upcoming meetings, Monday, January 28th at 9:45 a.m. You have a workshop for city manager candidate selection. Then on Tuesday, February 12th at 5:30 is your CRA board meeting, followed by the regular city commission meeting at 7 p.m. Then on Wednesday, the day after, February 13th at 9:45 a.m., you have a workshop scheduled for city manager interviews. That's all.
We're adjourned.